Chapter 3074. Outside the cave of the immortal demon. The atmosphere was tense. The supreme elders of the 6 major divine sects and the 9 major immortal sects were divided into 2 factions. Their eyes were glinting with sharpness. Meanwhile, Tai Qingzi and Ning Wuji had locked onto Gu Tongtian. The atmosphere was tense, as if a war between the 6 major divine sects and the 9 major immortal sects was about to break out. All the disciples of the 9 major immortal sects had been annihilated in the immortal demon meet, including peerless talents like Tai Yuan and Jianxin. The 9 major immortal sects were heartbroken. The main culprit was Lei Ling. Therefore, no matter what, they would not let Lei Ling go this time. The 6 major divine sects were excited. This was an unprecedented victory for them. Lei Ling was the son of God, the hope of the divine race. They had to protect him with their lives. A month was about to pass. The tension between the 6 major divine sects and the 9 major immortal sects was getting more obvious. Your Highness, under such circumstances, I'm afraid Lei Ling is dead for sure, right? Unless he agrees to be your follower, no one can save him. The elder in a Taoist robe beside the immortal emperor chariot said to the 9th prince. Although the 9 major immortal sects are located at the border, they have a strong foundation. Although they don't have any great emperors, they still have a few peerless immortal dukes. The 9th prince's eyes glowed as he said calmly, "That's right. Although Lei Ling is powerful and has an extreme emperor weapon, it's impossible for him to fight against a peerless immortal duke. He only has one way to survive, and that is to become your follower." The elder in a Taoist robe nodded. "Don't underestimate this person. I'm sure he won't agree to be my follower. However, this person has great luck. I'm curious how he'll survive this." His Highness the 9th prince smiled faintly. "Your Highness thinks so highly of him?" The elder in a Taoist robe was slightly surprised. The 9th prince was like a divine dragon above the 9 heavens, looking down on all living beings. Not many people in the eternal immortal dynasty were worthy of his attention, but he thought highly of Lei Ling? "You'll know soon enough," the 9th prince said indifferently. Soon, the immortal demon grotto opened again. Rumble. Blazing light gushed out as the immortal demon grotto emitted an endless amount of immortal light, gradually forming an incomparably stable passageway. The people from the 6 divine sects and the 9 immortal sects shuddered at the same time. Their eyes turned sharp as they looked at the immortal demon cave. They were all waiting for Lei Ling to appear. The passageway of the immortal demon grotto was vast and majestic. Extreme emperor aura emanated from it, and it was also shrouded in chaotic laws. It looked extremely dreamy, as if it could transform into many strange scenes. Just as the people from the 9 great immortal sects were about to lose their patience, Ling Shao appeared. Rumble. Ling Shao stepped out of the immortal demon cave. The aura around him rose, emitting a dazzling light. His eyes were bright and resplendent, like sharp sword radiance, piercing through the void. He strode through space and didn't conceal himself at all. His cultivation had already broken through to the 2nd level of the imperial monarch realm. Using 16 origin Dao fruits to temper his body, the origin body that was condensed could be said to be immortal and extremely powerful. Now, unless it was an extreme emperor weapon, ordinary weapons wouldn't be able to cause any harm to Ling Shao. After Ling Shao appeared, the immortal demon grotto shone brightly. 120 figures with terrifying auras stepped out as well. Each of them was incomparably sharp, and the murderous aura around them rose, exuding an extremely powerful emperor aura. 120 imperial monarchs. With Zhang Chen, Wu Hen, Ting Shan, and the others as the leaders, the 120 imperial monarchs were filled with fanatical admiration and respect for Ling Shao. Ling Shao had unlocked their bloodline shackles, allowing them to become true deities. With the help of the vast origin energy in the ancestral god spring, all of their cultivation had broken through to the imperial monarch realm. 120 imperial monarchs, even in the immortal world, was an extremely powerful force. What? Lei Ling's cultivation has broken through to the 2nd level of the imperial monarch realm? The 120 disciples of the six great divine sects have all broken through to the imperial monarch realm? What kind of opportunity did they obtain? Someone exclaimed. His eyes were filled with disbelief. For the top forces in the immortal world, the imperial monarchs were the core and foundation. Every imperial monarch had the opportunity to become an emperor. Although most of the imperial monarchs were blocked by the heavenly chasm, if they could become a peerless imperial monarch, they would be able to maintain the prosperity of their forces. The 120 imperial monarchs had caught the attention of the 9 great immortal sects. However, the 9 great immortal sects were only shocked for a moment. After all, they had just broken through to the imperial monarch realm. Most of them were only at the first level of the imperial monarch realm. Only a few of them had reached the second and third level of the imperial monarch realm. Although there were many of them, they were only low-level imperial monarchs. Most of the people's attention was still on Ling Xiao. Boom, boom. Right at this moment, 2 blazing murderous intents shot through the void and locked onto Ling Xiao as if they were real. They were the sect leader of the Tai Yi Immortal Sect, Tai Qingzi, and the sect leader of the Sky-Piercing Immortal Sect, Ning Wuji. Lei Ling, were you the one who killed Taiyuan? Lei Ling, how dare you kill the Saint of the Sword Heart and steal the treasure of our Sky-Piercing Immortal Sect? You deserve to die. Tai Qingzi and Ning Wuji's voices were extremely cold. Their voices were like thunder, causing the void to rumble. Both of them were peerless imperial monarchs. Their strength was unfathomable. Their murderous intents turned into a vast aura and emperor's aura that pressed down on Ling Xiao. It was extremely terrifying. Even an imperial monarch realm expert would be stunned by such an aura and immediately kneel on the ground. However, Ling Xiao's expression was extremely calm. It was as if he was not affected at all. You can't help but reveal your true intentions so quickly? The rules of the immortal demon gathering were set by the 9 great immortal sects and the 6 great divine sects. The only thing that matters in the immortal demon cave is the strength. What qualifications do you have to denounce me? Ling Xiao sneered. He had expected such an outcome and had prepared himself for it. Although the rules of the immortal demon gathering were as such, Ling Xiao had indeed killed ruthlessly this time. He had killed all the disciples of the 9 great immortal sects. Even the saints and saintesses like Taiyuan, Jianxin, Wu Xingchen, Ren Tianjue, and Fang Qingxue had all died in his hands. It would be strange if the 9 great immortal sects were not anxious. How dare you quibble? If you didn't use some underhanded means, how could all the disciples of the 9 great immortal sects be killed? I think you are an evil demon. You will become a great threat to the immortal world in the future. You must die today. The Grand Elder of the Kunlun Immortal Sect was a very mean-looking old woman. She gritted her teeth and said, "That's right. Lei Ling must die today. If Lei Ling doesn't die, he will become a great threat to the immortal world. He must not be allowed to live. Kill him." The people of the 9 great immortal sects were all agitated. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. They vaguely formed a circle and trapped Ling Xiao within. The apex. Chapter 3075. The people from the 6 divine sects were both shocked and furious. They quickly moved to protect Ling Xiao in the center and stared at the people from the 9 immortal sects cautiously. They all looked at Gu Tongtian at the same time. Gu Tongtian's strength was extraordinary. He was already a peerless immortal lord 10,000 years ago. He was infamous in the immortal tribe. He was also the leader of the 6 divine sects. Gu Tongtian took a step forward and stood in front of Tai Qingzi and Ning Wuji. Tai Qingzi, Ning Wuji, don't try to reason with me. Lei Ling is under my protection today. Whoever dares to go against him will be my, Gu Tongtian's, enemy. Gu Tongtian sneered. His domineering voice rang in everyone's ears. He stepped into the void and stood in front of Tai Qingzi and Ning Wuji. His eyes were sharp and domineering. His hair fluttered in the wind, and an invincible aura filled the air. His body seemed to contain endless power. It was as if he could push open the 4 poles of the world and step on the sun, moon, and stars. It was terrifying to the extreme. Even Tai Qingzi, Ning Wuji, the elder in the Taoist robe, and the ninth prince looked at him. Gu Tongtian, do you really think that you can protect Lei Ling all by yourself? He has angered everyone. Today, he must give us an explanation. Ning Wuji's eyes were cold. Terrifying sword intent rose around him as he said coldly. Give you an explanation? Sure. Today, if any of you can defeat me, I will hand Lei Ling over to you. Do you dare? Gu Tongtian sneered. His eyes were sharp as he glanced at the people from the 9 immortal sects. The people from the 9 immortal sects trembled. They didn't dare to look at Gu Tongtian and lowered their heads. Even Tai Qingzi and Ning Wuji's faces turned ugly. The two of them had become peerless immortal lords much earlier than Gu Tongtian. However, what they didn't know was that they had both been defeated by Gu Tongtian. 10,000 years ago, when Gu Tongtian had broken through to the immortal monarch realm, he had fought with Tai Qingzi and Ning Wuji. However, they had been defeated by Gu Tongtian. However, they had sealed off the news and no one knew about it. After 10,000 years, even Tai Qingzi and Ning Wuji could sense that Gu Tongtian was getting more and more unfathomable. However, they didn't dare say that they could defeat him. No one had expected that Gu Tongtian's words would leave the 9 great immortal sects speechless. A bunch of trash. Gu Tongtian sneered. A voice rang out. He didn't care about these people in front of him. The people of the 6 houses were excited. They didn't expect Gu Tongtian to be so powerful that he could stun Tai Qingzi and Ning Wuji with one sentence. Gu Tonggan, although your combat strength is strong, can you compare to the people of the 9 great immortal sects? You won't be able to stop me today. Lei Ling must die. Tai Qingzi said calmly. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, the void shook and 2 figures with powerful auras descended. It was a handsome young man and a beautiful woman in a long dress. Both of them were shrouded in dazzling immortal light and had powerful auras. Another 2 peerless immortal monarchs. Although they looked young, they were all old monsters with the ability to retain their youthful looks. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of years they had lived. As soon as they appeared, it immediately shocked everyone. Wu Xiong Immortal Monarch and Alcade Immortal Monarch? Someone's entire body trembled as he cried out in surprise, revealing the origins of the 2 people. The sect leader of the true martial immortal sect, Wu Xiong Immortal Monarch. The sect leader of the Alcade Immortal sect, Alcade Immortal Monarch. They didn't expect that the deaths of Wu Xingqian and Ren Tianjue would make these 2 big shots unable to sit still and come here. Their goal was self-evident. Naturally, they were here for Ling Xiao. In the blink of an eye, 4 peerless immortal monarchs had arrived. Gu Tongtian frowned slightly. He didn't expect that Ling Xiao's destruction of the disciples of the 9 great immortal sects would cause the 9 great immortal sects to go crazy. There were only 4 peerless immortal monarchs here. He wondered if there were other peerless immortal monarchs hiding in the dark. Although he wasn't afraid, Lei Ling's cultivation was only at the 2nd heaven of the immortal monarch realm. How could he resist the ambush of the peerless immortal monarchs? This was going to be troublesome. You're Lei Ling who killed Wu Xingqian? Pay for it with your life. Wu Xiong said coldly. You've repeatedly gone against the Alcade Immortal sect. How many years has it been since such an audacious descendant of the god tribe appeared? Why don't you let me send you to see the ancestor god? Alcade Immortal Monarch smiled faintly. His eyes were full of flirtatious emotions, but the bone-chilling coldness made everyone tremble. The killing intent of the 4 peerless immortal monarchs descended and enveloped Ling Xiao. With just you guys? Ling Xiao sneered. His eyes were sharp and there was a strong fighting intent rising around him. He had never fought with a peerless immortal monarch before. He wondered how strong a peerless immortal monarch was. Ling Xiao's eyes were bright and dazzling, as if a vast fighting intent was about to burst out. At this moment, a calm voice suddenly rang out in the void. Lei Ling, are you willing to become my follower? Everyone couldn't help but be stunned. Everyone's eyes fell on the immortal Emperor War Chariot. It was the 9th prince who had spoken. Hearing the 9th prince's words, Tai Qingzi, Ning Wuji, Wu Xiong, and Alcade frowned, but they didn't say anything. The ninth prince of the eternal immortal dynasty wasn't someone they could easily provoke. However, if Lei Ling really became the ninth prince's follower, they wouldn't be able to do anything to Lei Ling anymore. Ninth prince, you think so highly of me? Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. He didn't expect the ninth prince to try to recruit him at this moment. This was an attempt to recruit him, but it was also an attempt to save him. Everyone was shocked beyond belief. Even the Taiyuan sage of the 9 great immortal sects didn't have the right to become the ninth prince's follower. What did Lei Ling have to do that? Lei Ling, you do have the right. If you become my follower, as long as you are loyal to me, you will have no grudges in the entire immortal world. The ninth prince said calmly. His voice was calm, but it sent chills down everyone's spines. No grudges in the entire immortal world? How domineering was that? However, the ninth prince had the right to do so. He was the most dazzling existence in the eternal immortal dynasty, the most promising candidate to become the crown prince of the eternal immortal dynasty. Even the most peerless immortal monarchs had to bow their heads before him. Once he became the ninth prince's follower, not only would the sect leaders of the 9 great immortal sects not dare to touch Ling Xiao, but he would also be able to obtain great opportunities and fortunes. The people from the 9 great immortal sects looked at Ling Xiao with eyes full of hatred and jealousy. Chapter 3076. Everyone's eyes fell on Ling Xiao, waiting to see how he would choose. However, most of them felt that Ling Xiao would agree to become the ninth prince's follower. After all, in the face of certain death, this was the only way to survive. Becoming a follower of the ninth prince was an incomparably honorable thing. I'm sorry. I'm used to being lazy and can't be restrained. I'll have to reject the ninth prince's good intentions. Ling Xiao said with a smile. His expression was calm. Everyone's expression froze. Ling Xiao had rejected the ninth prince? Tai Qingzi, Ning Wuji, and the other celestial dukes were stunned for a moment before they were overjoyed. If Ling Xiao agreed to become the ninth prince's follower, they would not be able to do anything to Ling Xiao. It seemed that Lei Ling was too arrogant. He did not know what was good for him. What a pity! Since that's the case, I can't interfere in today's matter. You can deal with it yourselves. The ninth prince said calmly. His voice was calm and indifferent, as if he was not unhappy at all. Even the old man in a Taoist robe beside the immortal emperor chariot shook his head regretfully. In his heart, he admired Ling Xiao very much, but he did not expect Ling Xiao to be so ignorant as to reject the ninth prince. From the looks of it today, Ling Xiao was most likely doomed. Ha! Lei Ling, you're the god's son, the future leader of the god clan. How can you become someone else's servant? I think it's more appropriate for the ninth prince to become your follower. Gu Tongtian laughed. His voice was domineering, and his eyes were full of admiration. Arrogant. It's your fortune that the ninth prince is willing to accept you as his follower. How dare you reject him? I'll kill you today. Ning Wuji's eyes flashed with killing intent as he laughed coldly. Boom. The aura around him was sharp like an unsheathed immortal sword. Sword intent surged around him, and the sword radiance was dazzling. A vast killing intent bloomed. Rumble. Tai Qingzi, Wu Xiong, and the light-shaking immortal rulers no longer had any scruples. Their eyes flickered coldly as their murderous intent loomed over Ling Xiao. The supreme elders of the 9 great immortal sects also unleashed their powerful auras at the same time, locking Ling Xiao in the center. You finally can't hold it in anymore? Since you've already killed the disciples of the 9 great immortal sects, why can't you kill a few more supreme elders of the 9 great immortal sects? Ling Xiao sneered. His eyes were sharp and resplendent, without the slightest trace of fear. The battle intent around him surged. You're courting death. Kill him. Go! The experts from the 9 great immortal sects sneered coldly. Each of them was incomparably cold. Killing intent surged from their bodies as they instantly attacked Ling Xiao. Rumble. Dozens of powerhouses attacked at the same time. The momentum was so great that it covered the sky and the sun. The blazing celestial light instantly enveloped Ling Xiao. The people from the 6 great immortal sects naturally did not want to be outdone. Their eyes were cold as they unleashed their strongest combat strength to meet the attack. Brother Tai Qingzi, junior sister light shaking immortal Yao Guang, brother Wu Xiong, please stop Gu Tongtian. I'll kill Lei Ling. Killing intent flashed across Ning Wuji's eyes. He instantly held his sword and charged towards Ling Xiao. There were 4 great immortal rulers here, but Ning Wuji was definitely the one who hated Ling Xiao the most. He believed that even if Gu Tongtian was powerful, with 3 great immortal rulers obstructing him, Gu Tongtian would not be able to split himself up. He could use this opportunity to kill Ling Xiao and take the heavenly sword illustration and the 2 immortal swords. Then, with the combined strength of the 4 of them, they might be able to kill Gu Tongtian. Tai Qingzi and the other 2 understood Ning Wuji's intention without needing to say more. They all nodded and charged towards Gu Tongtian at the same time. A bunch of weaklings. You think you can kill me? Gu Tongtian sneered. Boom! Endless blazing divine light radiated from his body like lightning. The light in his hand was dense, and a huge broadsword with a wide back appeared. It was pitch black and exuded a monstrous baleful aura. It was forged from some kind of peerless divine metal and had the weight of millions of kilograms. However, this broadsword was as light as a feather in Gu Tongtian's hand. As his voice fell, the broadsword slashed across the sky and instantly grew to tens of thousands of feet long. It was as if there were tens of thousands of swords whistling through the sky and slashing across the sky. Ning Wuji, Tai Qingzi, Wu Xiong, and light-shaking immortal ruler were all enveloped by his broadsword. Gu Tongtian soared into the sky, his hair flying in the wind. Endless energy exploded from his body, and in an instant, endless rays of light shot out like the blazing sun. He held the broadsword in one hand and attacked from the sky. He planned to fight the 4 great immortal rulers alone. Arrogant! Anger flashed in Tai Qingzi's eyes. The other 3 immortal rulers were also shocked and angry. They had never thought that Gu Tongtian would be so arrogant. They gave up on the idea of splitting their forces. The 4 great immortal rulers attacked at the same time, wanting to kill Gu Tongtian with their swords first. Boom! Gu Tongtian's broadsword clashed with Ning Wuji's immortal trapping sword in an instant. Millions of rays of divine light shot out, and then it was hit by the 3 great immortal rulers. In an instant, millions of voids were annihilated. The battle between peerless immortal monarchs could easily destroy the heavens and the earth, and its momentum was vast to the extreme. It caused the faces of the surrounding people to turn incomparably pale, and their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Seeing that Gu Tongtian was able to stop the 4 great immortal rulers, the people of the 6 great immortal sects were extremely excited. However, the experts of the 9 great immortal sects still far surpassed them. Although no great immortal ruler attacked, there were still a few immortal rulers. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent as they charged towards Ling Xiao. Kill! Ling Xiao roared and leaped forward. The blazing light around his body exploded, and his gaze instantly became incomparably fierce. Clang! A sword cry resounded through the void. The heaven-devouring sword appeared in the sky, emitting an unparalleled light. A mighty emperor's aura gushed out, and the sword slashed down towards the immortal monarchs. At the same time, a formation diagram spread out in the sky. It was like an ink painting of mountains and rivers, containing millions of mountains and rivers and countless stars. However, the images were all formed by the strong sword will. It was like a world of swords, and it enveloped the people of the 9 great immortal sects within the formation diagram. Heavenly Sword Diagram. With the support of the Heavenly Sword Diagram, the sky-devouring sword in Ling Xiao's hand became even stronger. The sharp sword qi seemed to be able to cut through everything. The few immortal monarchs who were rushing towards Ling Xiao were merely mid-level immortal monarchs. Their cultivation bases were mostly at the 5th or 6th level of the immortal monarch realm. At this moment, their bodies trembled as their minds were seized by this sword. However, it was this fear that was going to take their lives. Chapter 3077. With a flash of blood-red light, a head flew into the sky. The sword essence in the sky tore through the void and turned his body into a bloody mist. His head exploded. As for the other two sixth heaven-high celestials, even though they were lucky enough to avoid this terrifying sword strike, a deep gash appeared on their chests. They were nearly cleaved into two halves, and they coughed out blood as they were sent flying. Rumble! Ling Zhao's aura was majestic as he stepped on the sky. The killing intent in his eyes was extremely bright. After the sky-devouring sword chopped off the head, it did not give him a chance to regenerate his flesh and blood. In an instant, it unleashed an extremely strong devouring power, directly devouring the blood mist that filled the sky, as well as the head. The sky-devouring sword buzzed in the void and turned blood-red. It exuded a monstrous baleful aura, like a peerless demonic sword. Anyone who looked at it would feel their heart tremble and find it hard to control themselves. Kill! Ling Zhao shouted again. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he held the sky-devouring sword in his hand and charged toward the two immortal high immortals who had been severely injured by him. With the support of the heavenly sword diagram and the sky-devouring sword, Ling Zhao possessed unparalleled combat strength. Even Taiyuan could not withstand a few strikes from Ling Zhao and was killed by him in the end. Although these supreme elders had powerful cultivation bases, they were not even comparable to Taiyuan. How could they compete with Ling Zhao? The two supreme elders were frightened and their eyes were filled with disbelief. They did not dare to continue fighting with Ling Zhao. Instead, they turned around and tried to escape. Lei Ling, how dare you? An old man shouted. Starlight fell from the sky. An old man with white hair and a white beard charged over. His eyes were cold. Celestial light gathered around him and rose into the sky. It was as though an illusory galaxy had appeared around him with boundless power. An advanced immortal high immortal. This was a genuine advanced immortal high immortal whose cultivation base had reached the seventh heaven of the immortal high immortal realm. You think you can defeat me? Ling Zhao sneered. He was not afraid at all. Holding the sky-devouring sword, he charged toward the illusory galaxy. His vital energy and blood were boiling, and his battle intent was soaring. He seemed to have become extremely excited, allowing his battle prowess to be unleashed to the extreme. Even though Ling Zhao had the heavenly sword diagram and the heaven-devouring sword, making him unstoppable, Ling Zhao was still stronger on his own. His body was indestructible and invincible. Even extreme Dao monarch weapons couldn't break his bones. What could high-level immortal monarchs do to him? High-stage immortal lords might be able to injure him, but they wouldn't be able to kill him. However, when he wielded the heaven-devouring sword, he possessed the heaven-defying battle prowess to slaughter high-level celestial lords. Boom, boom, boom. When the Alcade Immortal Sect's high-level immortal monarch charged towards Ling Zhao, three other high-level immortal monarchs charged over from three different directions. High-level immortal monarchs were all 7th and 8th level immortal monarchs. Their strength was unparalleled, and they were able to unleash the full power of the Great Tao. They had an overwhelming advantage over low-level immortal monarchs. Even if there were hundreds of low-level immortal monarchs, it would still be difficult for them to defeat a high-level immortal monarch. They wielded the power of the Great Tao, and they were unparalleled. They could suppress everything with a wave of their hand. The four high-level immortal monarchs charged towards Ling Zhao, putting a lot of pressure on him. However, Ling Zhao wasn't afraid at all. The heaven-devouring sword in his hand was incomparably sharp. In an instant, it emitted an unparalleled radiance. Hundreds of millions of sword chi swept over and enveloped the four high-level immortal monarchs. Ling Zhao gave up on any form of defense. With the heavenly sword in his hand, he unleashed his strongest sword Dao mystique. Every move he made was aimed at the vital points of his opponents. It was as if he was going to perish together with his opponents. After all, Ling Zhao's body was extremely strong. Even high-level immortal monarchs couldn't kill him directly. However, Ling Zhao's heaven-devouring sword was able to pose a fatal threat to them. This peerless sword that had fused the four great divine swords gave birth to a peerless sword chi. It was even more terrifying than the immortal slaying sword and the immortal slaughtering sword. It was a sword that was purely for killing. The most important thing was that this sword was refined by Ling Xiao using the sword embryo. It was his natal treasure. In his hands, it could erupt with supreme divine might. As soon as they exchanged blows, the 4 high-level immortal monarchs knew the power of the heaven-devouring sword. Therefore, most of their strength was used to block the heaven-devouring sword. As for the attacks on Ling Xiao, they didn't hurt him at all. Under this kind of powerful attack without any defense, Ling Xiao actually had a faint feeling that he was suppressing the 4 high-level immortal monarchs. This caused everyone to tremble in shock. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Rumble. Within the heavenly sword diagram, hundreds of millions of sword chi rose. Vaguely, it seemed as if 4 supreme immortal swords had appeared. They suppressed the 4 extremes and were invincible. Originally, the 9 great immortal sects still had the upper hand. However, because of the heavenly sword diagram, they were soon attacked from all sides. For a moment, they were actually evenly matched with the supreme elders of the 6 great immortal sects. For Lord God's child, kill the enemy. Kill, kill, kill. Within the heavenly sword diagram, there seemed to be a tsunami of voices. Their shouts were as loud as thunder, rumbling loudly. The 120 immortal generals under Ling Xiao moved out. Rumble. With Zhang Chen, Wu Hen, and Ting Shan taking the lead, the 120 immortal generals instantly split into 3 groups. Each group had 40 immortal generals. Their auras intertwined with each other, and their blood was connected. Moreover, with the help of the heavenly sword diagram, they formed a powerful battle formation. Above the 3 battle formations, there seemed to be 3 terrifying phantoms. They were domineering, mysterious, ancient, and dignified. As soon as the phantoms appeared, they gathered all their strength together. Rumble. The 3 battle formations charged forward with an unstoppable momentum. With a single strike, 3 weaker midstage immortal monarchs were smashed apart by the impact of the battle formations. Blood mist filled the air as sword chi fell from the sky. Those mid-level immortal monarchs didn't even have the chance to regenerate their flesh and blood. In an instant, they were sliced into pieces by the sword chi that contained the Supreme Emperor's aura. Originally, the people from the 9 great immortal sects didn't put the 120 immortal monarchs in their eyes. After all, they had just broken through not too long ago. Moreover, most of them were only at the first heaven of the immortal monarch realm. They didn't pose any threat to them. However, they didn't expect that the 120 immortal monarchs would actually form 3 battle formations within the heavenly sword diagram. Their auras intertwined with each other, and their battle strength wasn't any weaker than a mid-level immortal monarch. The 3 battle formations were like a tsunami, erupting with incomparably powerful energy. Countless immortal monarchs from the 9 great immortal sects were killed by them. These 120 immortal monarchs had already become the immortal generals under Ling Xiao. They were all loyal to Ling Xiao. Because Ling Xiao had undergone a transformation, his strength had increased tremendously. Therefore, for Ling Xiao, they weren't afraid of death. When Ling Xiao had unsealed their bloodline in the immortal demon cave, he had also imparted to them the inheritance of the Azura ancestor god, Azura battle formation from the Azura scripture. It could allow them to unleash 10 times or even 100 times their combat strength. This was the first time the Azura battle formation had displayed its might. In an instant, it had caused an incomparably powerful killing power. P.S. Due to a last-minute social engagement, I only have one update today. Everyone, rest early. Chapter 3078. Originally, the experts of the 6 great divine sects were in a disadvantageous position. Under the attacks of the 9 great immortal sects, they could only defend passively. However, the Azura battle formation formed by the 120 divine generals was like 3 torrents that destroyed everything in its path. It then plunged into the midst of the experts of the 9 great immortal sects. Although their cultivation was only at the 1st or 2nd heaven of the immortal emperor realm, under the support of the Azura battle formation, their strength had increased by tenfold or even hundredfold. Even the middle-stage immortal monarchs found it difficult to withstand their attacks. The 9 great immortal sects had no choice but to send out 3 high-level immortal monarchs along with the rest of the immortal monarchs to fend off the 120 divine generals. However, in this short period of time, several immortal monarchs had already died in the hands of the divine generals. In an instant, the battle between the experts of the 6 great divine sects and the 9 great immortal sects had entered a stalemate. The focus of this battle was on Gu Tongtian and Ling Xiao. Gu Tongtian was besieged by the 4 peerless immortal monarchs. However, the more he fought, the braver he became. Instead, he restrained the 4 peerless immortal monarchs. His attacks were domineering and swift, like a tsunami, preventing them from attacking Ling Xiao. At the same time, because of Ling Xiao's abnormal combat strength, the 4 high-level immortal monarchs also charged over and continuously launched their strongest attacks at Ling Xiao. Rumble! Ling Xiao's aura surged and dazzling divine light shone. The battle intent in his eyes was extremely strong. He held the heaven-devouring sword in his hand and struck across the sky. Every sword strike contained the power of great destruction that could tear apart the void and sweep everything away. In the face of the pressure from the 4 high-level immortal monarchs, Ling Xiao was forced to use all of his combat strength. His strength was incomparably terrifying. The sharp sword light was like a sky full of stars that fell on the 4 high-level immortal monarchs continuously. Although the 4 high-level immortal monarchs were strong, they were unable to do anything to Ling Xiao. This kid must not be allowed to live. Ning Wuji saw this scene from the corner of his eye. The killing intent in his eyes was so strong that it seemed to have materialized. A trace of fear emerged in his heart. Ling Xiao was only a 2nd heaven immortal monarch. However, he was able to fight against the 4 peerless immortal monarchs without being defeated. Such heaven-defying combat strength would shock anyone who saw it. If Ling Xiao was allowed to continue growing, he would definitely become a huge threat to the immortal race. As for Gu Tongtian's unparalleled combat strength, Ning Wuji found it hard to believe. They were all peerless immortal monarchs, but Gu Tongtian's current battle prowess had already surpassed 10,000 years ago, causing the 4 peerless immortal monarchs to feel great pressure. If this continued, when the reinforcements of the 6 divine sects arrived, the battle would end hastily. He had to kill Ling Xiao before the reinforcements of the 6 divine sects arrived. If they could seriously injure or even kill Gu Tongtian, that would be even better. After making up his mind, Ning Wuji's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He clenched his teeth and an ancient talisman appeared in his palm. Heaven-suppressing immortal talisman, suppress. Ning Wuji abruptly let out a roar. Rumble! Like a sudden clap of thunder, the celestial talisman in his hand, enshrouded in chaotic light, instantly glowed brightly in the void. The word, suppress, in the immortal talisman was like an ancient sacred mountain, containing the power to destroy the heavens and earth. It instantly expanded in the sky and pressed down on Gu Tongtian. The terrifying aura instantly tore everything apart and turned the sword chi in the sky into dust. It was extremely terrifying. Ning Wuji took the opportunity to break away from Gu Tongtian's attack and charged toward Ling Xiao with the immortal trapping sword. Heaven-suppressing immortal talisman? It seems like Ning Wuji really hates Lei Ling to the point that he's willing to use the heaven-suppressing immortal talisman. Gu Tongtian, let's see how you're going to save Lei Ling. Tai Qingzi's eyes were filled with astonishment. He, Wu Xiong, and Yao Guang had a tacit understanding. The moment the heaven-suppressing immortal talisman appeared, they unleashed all their strength and activated the 3 extreme Dao Emperor weapons at the same time, charging toward Gu Tongtian. The heaven-suppressing immortal talisman was an immortal talisman left behind by a heaven-suppressing immortal emperor in the Antiquity Age. It was extremely powerful and could create a space of its own that could destroy everything. It was said to be able to suppress anything below the Great Emperor level. A sharp light flashed across Gu Tongtian's eyes. He instantly sensed that the void around him seemed to have been separated. The heaven and earth were pressing down on him. The immortal talisman above his head was twisting and emitting blazing immortal light. It slowed down the circulation of energy in his body. Although he unleashed his strongest divine power to resist the heaven-suppressing immortal talisman's unparalleled divine power, and at the same time, he held his sword and charged towards Tai Chingzi and the others with his overbearing sword intent. However, he had no energy left to stop Ning Wuji. Lei Ling, it's up to you now. Gu Tongtian muttered to himself. His eyes grew sharper and more overbearing. His entire being seemed to be shrouded in a layer of hurricane. The sword in his hand kept slashing out shocking sword light towards the heaven-suppressing immortal talisman, trying to completely cut it open. Tai Chingzi and the other two were not willing to give him a chance to catch his breath. The three Extreme Dao Emperor weapons swept across the sky, their Extreme Dao Emperor aura surging like the sea. They shrouded Gu Tongtian and attacked him continuously. At the same time, Ling Xiao, who was fighting against the 4 high-level immortal lords, also felt a strong sense of danger approaching. His eyes flashed as he saw Ning Wuji charging toward him with the celestial trapping sword. Rumble! The celestial trapping sword carried with it the power of heaven and earth. At the same time, it shrouded the void and locked Ling Xiao in place. The peerless sword intent could destroy everything, making it impossible for Ling Xiao to escape. Ling Xiao could even see Ning Wuji's eyes, which were filled with killing intent, reflected by the celestial culling sword. Clang! The heaven-suppressing sword soared into the sky, radiating dazzling sword radiance and surging sword intent. Without dodging, it went straight for the celestial trapping sword. Rumble! The terrifying sword intents clashed, sweeping across the sky like a huge wave. Instantly, a blazing roar erupted. The blazing sword radiance shattered, turning into a dazzling rain of light that fell from the sky. Ling Xiao felt an irresistible force coming at him. The heaven-suppressing sword in his hand buzzed and trembled as he was sent flying. Is this the power of a peerless immortal lord? Ling Xiao's eyes were bright and resplendent as he exclaimed in his heart, "Kill!" The eyes of the 4 high-level immortal monarchs shone brightly as they charged towards Ling Xiao from all directions. Ning Wuji did not stop at all. The celestial culling sword shone brightly as it buzzed, pointing at Ling Xiao's glabella. Rumble! At this moment, a dazzling light exploded from Ling Xiao's body. His entire body was crystal clear like glass. Boundless sword intent soared into the sky, turning him into a sword. Chapter 3079. The heavenly sword picture buzzed as it flew across the sky. A vast and mighty emperor aura exploded. Heaven and earth flipped and the starry sky changed. Boundless sword intent rose and the heavenly sword picture gave up on the 9 immortal sects. Instead, it instantly enveloped the 4 high-level immortal lords and Ning Wuji. What? The 4 high-level immortal lords and Ning Wuji's expressions changed when they sensed a mysterious and terrifying force awakening within the heavenly sword diagram. The heaven-devouring sword shone brightly and instantly turned into 4 ancient swords that pierced through the heaven and earth. They stood in 4 different directions like heavenly pillars that propped up the world and broke through the primordial void. Heavenly sword formation. This was the supreme sword formation left behind by the heavenly sword emperor. It could unleash the killing power of the 4 heavenly sword emperors and destroy everything. In ancient times, the heavenly sword emperor could trap and kill great emperors with the heavenly sword formation. Ling Xiao's heaven-devouring sword had merged with the 3 immortal swords. However, it did not affect the heavenly sword picture and the heavenly sword formation. This was also what Ling Xiao had prepared for Ning Wuji. Ning Wuji was wary of Ling Xiao and coveted the heavenly sword picture. However, Ling Xiao also coveted the immortal trapping sword. Only by merging with the immortal trapping sword would his heaven-devouring sword be complete. Heavenly sword formation. You can actually set up the heavenly sword formation? Ning Wuji's eyes were filled with disbelief. Sensing the terrifying sword chi around them, Ning Wuji and the 4 high-level immortal lords felt a chill run down their spines. They sensed a fatal danger. However, Ning Wuji's sharp senses told him that the heavenly sword formation was not complete. There were still flaws. You want to trap me with a mere incomplete heaven-reaching sword formation? You must be tired of living. Ning Wuji laughed coldly. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he charged towards Ling Xiao with the immortal trapping sword in his hand. The heavenly sword formation is indeed incomplete. However, with the immortal trapping sword in your hand, it will be complete. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His expression was calm as he looked at Ning Wuji as though he was looking at a dead man. He did not dodge. It was as if he was certain that Ning Wuji's sword could not hurt him. However, the closer he got to Ling Xiao, the more Ning Wuji felt his heart palpitate. Could it be that he still has some trump card? A thought emerged in Ning Wuji's mind. However, at this moment he was already in front of Ling Xiao. The trembling sword light of the immortal culling sword was only inches away from Ling Xiao's forehead, as if it could pierce through it at any moment. However, Ning Wuji could no longer thrust his sword forward. This was because an ancient cauldron had appeared above Ning Wuji's head out of nowhere. The cauldron had 3 legs and 2 handles, and it was bronze in color. It was simple and mysterious. Even though it was damaged, it was impossible to conceal its vast and powerful aura. The ancient cauldron hummed, and the sound was extremely clear. It instantly spread out in all directions, causing numerous strange ripples to appear. It was terrifying to the extreme. This is the cauldron of creation? Ning Wuji's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He couldn't help but roar. The cauldron of creation spun, and a vast amount of energy came from it. It suppressed Ning Wuji's body, causing him to be unable to move. It was as if there was an ancient greater world on his body, causing Ning Wuji to tremble all over. An indescribable fear emerged in his heart. This was the cauldron of creation, the ultimate treasure of the deity tribe. However, countless eras ago, the cauldron of creation had already shattered into countless fragments. How did Ling Xiao repair the cauldron of creation? Ning Wuji's heart was filled with endless questions. Unfortunately, Ling Xiao did not intend to answer his questions. When the cauldron of creation suppressed him, Ling Xiao chose to attack. The heaven-devouring sword hummed, and its sword chi swept out in all directions. It was extremely sharp, and it instantly headed for Ning Wuji's forehead. Ning Wuji could only watch as the heaven-devouring sword pierced through the void and into his sea of consciousness. However, he could not resist at all. The ultimate treasure of chaos, the cauldron of creation. Even though it was an incomplete cauldron of creation, it had the blessing of the deity tribe and the activation of the deity tribe seal. The power of the cauldron of creation was enough to suppress a supreme deity. After the heaven-devouring sword pierced through Ning Wuji's forehead, it suddenly slashed downwards. An extremely sharp sword intent gushed out and directly cut Ning Wuji in half. Blood rained down, and the flesh in the void wriggled. Dazzling immortal light bloomed, as if it was trying to reform a body. When one's cultivation reached the level of a supreme deity, rebirth from a drop of blood was a simple matter. As long as there was a drop of flesh, one could be reborn instantly. However, the most tragic thing about Ning Wuji was that he was suppressed by the cauldron of creation. With the suppression of the cauldron of creation, he could not resist at all. He was like a live target, and could only let Ling Xiao do whatever he wanted. The sword chi that filled the sky slashed downwards, instantly turning Ning Wuji's flesh into nothingness. As for Ning Wuji's primordial spirit, it was instantly suppressed by the wordless heavenly book by Ling Xiao, and was slowly refined by the wordless heavenly book. Rumble! The heaven-devouring sword emitted an extremely strong devouring power. The immortal slaughtering sword buzzed and instantly turned into a ray of light, merging into the heaven-devouring sword. The heaven-devouring sword shone brightly, and a mighty sword intent gushed out. It was extremely strong, powerful, and terrifying, as if it could cut through the boundless world. The heavenly sword diagram also buzzed. The last flaw of the heavenly sword diagram disappeared, and it was completely completed. Rumble! Ling Xiao stood in the middle of the heavenly sword diagram, holding the heaven-devouring sword in his hand. His body emitted an endless amount of divine light, and the sword light shot up into the sky, sharp to the extreme. The 4 high-level immortal lords were all dumbfounded, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. It was as if they were in a dream, and they did not dare to believe everything that had happened before their eyes. The Supreme Sect Master of Heaven Connecting Immortal Sect, the Supreme Immortal Lord Ningwuji, died in the hands of Ling Xiao just like that? That was a Supreme Immortal Lord. He was the strongest person below the Great Emperor, and he was a famous figure in the entire immortal world. Yet he had died in such a humiliating manner. Their bodies trembled, and they looked at Ling Xiao with fear in their eyes. Instantly, they wanted to break through the void and escape. You want to leave? The heavenly sword diagram has already been completed. I'll use you as a sacrifice. Ling Xiao sneered coldly. Rumble. The surrounding sword chi rose, and the heavenly sword diagram buzzed and buzzed. Boundless Emperor's aura burst forth, especially the 4 divine swords formed by the heaven-devouring sword. They pierced through the heavens and earth, and their radiance was extremely dazzling. Even though the 4 high-level immortal lords were strong, where could they escape to when they were trapped in the heavenly sword diagram? As the heaven-devouring sword swallowed the immortal trapping sword, it had completely merged with the 4 heavenly sword diagram. The sword embryo had also turned into a supreme sword. The heavenly sword diagram seemed to have been completely awakened, and every single sword chi contained the power to destroy the source of the great Tao. Not long after, the physical bodies of the 4 high-level immortal lords were smashed into pieces within the heavenly sword diagram. Even their primordial spirits fell into Ling Xiao's hands and were suppressed by him. 3rd Sect Master. Chapter 3080. In the Void. Ling Xiao had the heavenly sword diagram above his head and the heaven-swallowing sword in his hand. The cauldron of creation floated in front of him. His entire body was enveloped in a dazzling divine light. His aura was so powerful that no one dared to look at him directly. Everyone was stunned. Ling Xiao was only a 2nd Heaven Immortal Emperor, but he had managed to kill the sect leader of the Heavenly Sword Sect, Ningwuji, and 4 high-level immortal lords by himself. Even a peerless immortal lord would not be able to do such a thing. Was Ling Xiao really the son of destiny of the gods' tribe? What shocked them even more was that the cauldron of creation, which had been broken for countless eras, had been restored in Ling Xiao's hands. Even though it still seemed to be damaged, the peerlessly terrifying aura it emanated clearly showed that it was a genuine chaotic treasure. With the cauldron of creation, Ling Xiao was not just the son of God. He was probably the leader of the gods' tribe. Compared to the fact that Ling Xiao had killed Ningwuji and the 4 high-level immortal lords, the appearance of the cauldron of creation was even more shocking. Everyone could faintly feel that the situation in the immortal world was about to change greatly. Compared to the shock, fear of the 9 major immortal sects, the experts of the 6 major immortal sects were extremely excited. The cauldron of creation had appeared. The appearance of the god tribe's treasure meant that the god tribe was about to prosper again. This was especially so for the 120 divine generals. Their fanatical worship for Ling Xiao had reached its peak. They had already forgotten their identities and their former status. They were now the most loyal followers of God's favorite child. Anyone who dared to oppose the Son of God would be killed without mercy. The cauldron of creation? Interesting. The 9th prince's voice sounded from the immortal emperor's chariot with a hint of surprise. Your Highness, no wonder this lad is unwilling to become your follower. He actually has the cauldron of creation? However, I'm afraid this lad will eventually become a great enemy of the immortal race. Why don't? The Taoist-robed elder frowned as he spoke slowly. Towards the end, his eyes revealed a trace of viciousness. No matter. Even if it's a complete cauldron of creation, it won't affect the big picture, much less a damaged one. This Lei Ling is getting more and more interesting. I can sense that the heavenly sword diagram is complete. The sword in his hand can actually devour the immortal culling sword? I'm afraid the 4 heaven-piercing immortal swords have already fused into the sword in his hand. The 9th prince said slowly. Does your highness mean that you want to do it yourself? The Taoist-robed old man was slightly taken aback. Let's see if he can survive this calamity first. Although the people from the 9 celestial sects are unbearable, their strength is not something that the 6 divine sects can compare with. The 9th prince said indifferently. The old man in the Taoist robe nodded his head. His gaze landed on Ling Xiao and a strange look appeared on his face. Lei Ling was indeed extraordinary to be valued so highly by the 9th prince. However, Lei Ling's cultivation was still a little weak. After Ling Xiao killed Ning Wuji and the 4 high-level immortal monarchs, he shocked the experts of the 9 great immortal sections. They forgot to continue fighting. Even Tai Qingzi, Wu Xiong, and Yao Guang were in disbelief. Gu Tongkan, no wonder you risked your life to protect this Lei Ling. He was able to use the fortune of the deities tribe to activate the cauldron of creation. It seems like the deities tribe seal is also in his hands. With 2 supreme treasures of the deities tribe, he can already be called a divine master. However, he wasted the fortune of the deities tribe so recklessly just to suppress Ning Wuji. What a fool! Tai Qingzi sneered coldly. His eyes were extremely sharp. He could tell at a glance that Ling Xiao was able to activate the cauldron of creation to suppress Ning Wuji because he had wasted the fortune of the deities tribe. Otherwise, a broken Chaos Supreme treasure would not be able to suppress Ning Wuji, who had an extreme Dao Emperor weapon. The fortune of a tribe was extremely precious. It was much more precious than 1 or 2 peerless immortal monarchs. Therefore, in Tai Qingzi's opinion, Ling Xiao was extremely foolish to waste the fortune of the deities tribe just to suppress Ning Wuji. I don't know if he's foolish or not, but I do know that if you attack him now, you'll end up like Ning Wuji. Gu Tongtian said indifferently. Tai Qingzi snorted coldly. However, he had to admit that Gu Tongtian was right. Regardless of whether Ling Xiao was foolish or not, he did not dare to attack Ling Xiao. The cauldron of creation was too terrifying. The 3 peerless immortal monarchs felt their scalps go numb. However, if they did not attack, who else could deal with Ling Xiao? The sharpness in Ling Xiao's eyes was unparalleled. The sword will around him rose and followed him across the sky. The heavenly sword diagram spread out majestically and enveloped the cultivators of the 9 great immortal sections. In order to kill Ning Wuji, Ling Xiao had indeed used up a lot of the fortune of the deities tribe. However, it was worth it to Ling Xiao. Only by killing Ning Wuji could he obtain the immortal culling sword and complete his heaven-devouring sword, allowing the heavenly sword picture to unleash its full power. The combination of the heavenly sword picture and the heaven-devouring sword shrouded the entire void. Other than the high-level immortal monarchs, the low-level and mid-level immortal monarchs could not withstand the sharp sword chi. They were all killed within the heavenly sword picture. Everyone from the 6 major immortal sects was invigorated. Each of them unleashed their strongest divine aura and charged forward. The situation changed in the blink of an eye. The 9 major immortal sects suffered heavy casualties. They were about to be completely annihilated within the heavenly sword picture. The 3 peerless immortal monarchs, Tai Qingzi, Wu Xiong, and Yao Guang were extremely anxious. However, they could not free themselves and were stopped by Gu Tongtian. Damn it! Tai Qingzi's eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. His heart was filled with anger. However, the pressure that Gu Tongtian exerted on them was also increasing. Sword chi swept across the void, destroying everything and enveloping the 3 peerless immortal monarchs. Rumble! However, at this moment, waves of powerful aura swept across the sky. Dazzling immortal light lit up the entire sky. There were also a few immortal weapons that exuded extreme emperor aura. They flew across the sky and suppressed the heavenly sword picture and the heaven-devouring sword. Above the void, 5 figures with terrifying auras exuded an invincible aura. They were extremely strong. These were 5 peerless immortal monarchs. In addition, there were dozens of immortal monarchs. Their eyes were cold and filled with murderous intent. The reinforcements of the 9 major immortal sects had arrived. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He instantly felt a strong threat. The 5 peerless immortal monarchs had locked onto him. The experts of the 9 major immortal sects looked at him with murderous intent. They could not wait to tear him into pieces. The hearts of the 6 major immortal sects tightened. The reinforcements of the 9 major immortal sects had arrived so quickly, a fierce battle was unavoidable. Chapter 3082. Who dares to harm the Son of God? A cold voice boomed in the void like a clap of thunder. Rumble! The blazing divine light in the void rumbled. In an instant, 5 torrents of divine light swept across the sky, ferocious and domineering. They directly blocked in front of Ling Xiao and forced the 5 peerless immortal monarchs to retreat. 5 figures with terrifying auras swept across the sky and landed beside Ling Xiao. Their eyes were cold as they stared at the immortals in front of them. At the same time, dozens of figures with powerful auras followed. They were the supreme elders of the 6 major immortal sects. Their killing intent was boiling as they confronted the people from the 9 major immortal sects. The 5 figures were also peerless immortal dukes. The leaders of the 5 major immortal sects had all arrived. The faces of the people from the 9 major immortal sects changed. They did not expect the reinforcements from the 6 major immortal sects to arrive so quickly. Moreover, it seemed like the 6 major immortal sects had turned out in full force. All the supreme experts had arrived, looking as though they were willing to sacrifice anything for Ling Xiao. Including Gu Tongtian, the 6 major immortal sects had sent out 6 peerless immortal dukes and over 100 middle-level and high-level immortal dukes. They were all here to protect Lei Ling, the Son of God. For a moment, the 9 major immortal sects felt like they were riding a tiger. Although the 9 major immortal sects had 8 peerless immortal dukes and over 100 supreme elders, they seemed to be stronger than the 6 major immortal sects. However, the people from the 6 major immortal sects were full of vigor. They looked like they were not afraid of death and were willing to sacrifice anything for Lei Ling. If they were to forcefully start a war, it might end up with both sides suffering great losses. Moreover, there was the unfathomable Gu Tongtian in the 6 major immortal sects. After the battle with Gu Tongtian, Tai Qingzi, Wu Xiong, and Yao Guang were extremely wary of Gu Tongtian. What should we do? Are we really going to start a war with the 6 major immortal sects here? Even if we win, I'm afraid the 9 major immortal sects will suffer great losses. Although Lei Ling deserves to die, it won't be easy to kill him today. Moreover, he has the cauldron of creation. If we push him too far and force him to burn the immortal sect's fate, we might all be in danger of dying. That's right. The cauldron of fortune was the same as the longevity tower. They were both treasures of fortune. With the fortune of the celestial race, they would be able to unleash their strongest power. Damn it, if we don't have the cauldron of creation, we might be able to kill Lei Ling if we attack together and catch him off guard. We can't fight this battle anymore. Did you not see His Highness the 9th Prince? I'm afraid the eternal celestial dynasty can't wait for us to fight the 6 great sects to the death. That's right. The eternal immortal dynasty has always been up to no good. We have to preserve our strength. Lei Ling can be killed at any time, there's no need to rush. So we're just going to let this battle go? That's the only way. Agreed. Agreed. Among the 9 immortal sects, Tai Qingzi and the other peerless immortal lords intertwined with their immortal wills. Their gazes changed, and they finally reached a consensus. Although the deaths of the saints and saintesses had infuriated them, it had not reached the point where they would throw caution to the wind. Since they weren't willing to risk their lives, they could only call it quits. Gu Tongtian, you'd better stay by Lei Ling's side to protect him. Today's blood debt will be repaid 100, 1,000 times over. Tai Qingzi said coldly. His cold eyes swept across Gu Tongtian and Ling Xiao, and finally paused on Ling Xiao for a moment. His murderous intent seemed to have materialized. So, the 9 great immortal sects are shameless and want to kill Lei Ling regardless of your status? If Lei Ling is hurt in any way, I'll bury the 9 great immortal sects with him. Gu Tongtian laughed coldly. His voice was filled with overbearing dominance. Gu Tongtian, you're not an emperor yet. Even if you are, you don't have the right to say such words. You're just a frog in a well. Tai Qingzi laughed coldly, his eyes full of disdain. However, after hearing the conversation between Gu Tongtian and Tai Qingzi, the people from the 9 great immortal sects and the 6 great divine sects all felt relieved. Although it seemed like a threat, they all knew that there was no way for them to fight. Both sides had their reservations and were unwilling to die together. They didn't want the eternal immortal dynasty to reap the benefits. Therefore, even though the 9 great immortal sects hated Ling Xiao to the core, they had no choice but to give up. Ling Xiao could clearly feel that the 8 great immortal lords were looking at him with hatred and murderous intent. After all, Ling Xiao had wiped out the 9 great immortal sects in the immortal demon cave. All the saints and saintesses had died at his hands. Luckily, they weren't vicious enough. Ling Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. Ling Xiao had used the cauldron of creation to kill Ning Wuji. Although it seemed easy, Ling Xiao had paid a huge price. Let alone the fact that he had used up a large amount of the fortune of the gods, which made the fortune of the gods even weaker. Ling Xiao's indestructible soul had mostly been depleted from using the cauldron of fortune, so he was extremely weak right now. After all, how could a peerless immortal monarch that was said to be a supreme expert beneath the emperor realm was so easy to kill? However, killing Ning Wuji wasn't the most important thing for Ling Xiao. It was the immortal trapping sword in Ning Wuji's hands. What no one knew was that after merging with the immortal trapping sword, Ling Xiao's heaven-devouring sword had finally reached perfection. In the near future, it would definitely become a peerless sword that could sweep through the heavens. Seeing that the 9 great immortal sects had chosen to give up, the 9th prince frowned slightly on the immortal emperor's chariot. This wasn't what he had expected. It seemed like Lei Ling was more important to the descendants of the divine tribe than he had imagined. Otherwise, the 6 great immortal sects wouldn't have come out in full force. Buzz. At that moment, immortal light shone brightly and auspicious vapors rose. The 9th prince floated down from the immortal emperor's chariot. In an instant, it was as if the 9th prince had become the center of the world, attracting everyone's attention. His stature was extraordinary and he looked handsome and elegant. Although his face was hidden under the immortal light and couldn't be seen clearly, his peerless aura won everyone's admiration. He stepped forward and golden lotuses formed under his feet. They weren't stained by a single speck of dust. He was peerless, and every step he took created lotuses. He walked towards Ling Xiao. Although he didn't do it deliberately, there was a vast aura of heaven and earth that pressed down on Ling Xiao. A sharp light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes, and he instantly felt a strong and fatal sense of danger. This 9th prince was simply unfathomably powerful. 3rd Sect Master. Chapter 3083. Master, the 9th prince is very powerful. You are no match for him now. At that moment, a voice rang in Ling Xiao's mind. How can you be so sure that I am no match for him? Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly, and his fighting spirit surged. The evil spirit's words made Ling Xiao want to win. Ling Xiao had to admit that the 9th prince in front of him was the strongest he had ever seen. Even though Ling Xiao had killed the 9th prince's clone before, he was still not confident that he could defeat the 9th prince before him. Master, the 9th prince in front of you should only be a clone. However, even if it is a clone, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to defeat him. This is because his original body has already reached the level of an unparalleled celestial duke. The evil spirit's voice was solemn. Unparalleled celestial duke? Is the 9th prince really that strong? Ling Xiao was shocked. That's right. Although I don't know the reason why the 9th prince's main body hasn't appeared, just this clone alone is already extremely terrifying. Be careful. The evil spirit warned. He had temporarily become the weapon spirit of the wordless heavenly book and was recuperating in the wordless heavenly book. It could be said that he was bound to Ling Xiao for good or ill. Of course, he did not want Ling Xiao to die in the hands of the 9th prince. Buzz. At that moment, the 9th prince's palm shone brightly. It was as though there was a mysterious and brilliant world with 9 fragments of the godly cauldron sealed within it. Those were the fragments of the cauldron of creation. Ling Xiao and the rest of the people from the deity tribe could not help but change their expressions. Their eyes were burning with passion. They had not expected the last 9 fragments of the cauldron of creation to be in the hands of the 9th prince. Lei Ling, if you merge these 9 fragments of the godly cauldron, the cauldron of creation in your hands will be complete. The 9th prince smiled and looked at Ling Xiao calmly. What are your conditions? Ling Xiao asked calmly. He did not believe that the 9th prince would be so kind as to give him the 9 fragments of the godly cauldron. I want the heavenly sword diagram and the sword in your hand. The 9th prince's gaze landed on the heaven-devouring sword as a strange look appeared on his face. Impossible! A cold glint flashed across Ling Xiao's eyes as he smiled faintly. It seemed that the 9th prince had seen through the mysteries of the heaven-devouring sword. He probably knew that the heaven-devouring sword was fused with the 4 great immortal swords, which was why he had taken a fancy to it. Obtaining the 9 fragments of the cauldron of creation would make the cauldron of creation whole, but to Ling Xiao, the heaven-devouring sword was obviously more important. Therefore, he refused without any hesitation. What a pity! If you're not willing to trade, why don't we make a bet? The 9th prince did not get angry. Instead, he smiled calmly. Bet? Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed. That's right. I can see that your battle prowess is extraordinary, so I want to spar with you. Why don't we have a fight? If you win, I'll give you these 9 fragments of the divine cauldron. The 9th prince said. If I lose, I have to give you the heavenly sword illustration and the heaven-devouring sword? Ling Xiao said indifferently. Heaven-devouring sword? What a good name. You're right, and that's not all. If you lose, your life will be mine, and you will become my follower. The 9th prince said with a smile. If that's the case, your life will be mine if I win. Ling Xiao said indifferently. That's right. It's fair. As long as you have the ability, you can take my life at any time. His Highness the 9th prince nodded. Everyone had different expressions on their faces. Regardless of whether it was the people from the 9 major immortal sects or the 6 major immortal sects, no one had expected the 9th prince to want to fight Ling Xiao. As for the 9th prince, although no one had seen him fight, no one doubted his strength. The 9th prince was once hailed by the Celestial Emperor as the most dazzling genius of the immortal tribe in this era. There was no one else like him. All the geniuses, demons, and even the descendants of the Celestial Emperor paled in comparison to the 9th prince. No one doubted the 9th prince's strength. Everyone believed that the 9th prince would definitely become an emperor. It was just a matter of time. Now, the 9th prince actually wanted to fight with Lei Ling? This instantly piqued everyone's interest and curiosity. However, in their hearts, Ling Xiao had no chance of winning. However, regardless of whether it was the 9 major immortal sects or the 6 major immortal sects, all the peerless immortal dukes remained silent. The 6 major immortal sects naturally wanted the 9 fragments of the cauldron of creation. To them, the complete cauldron of creation was an irresistible temptation. On the other hand, the 9 major immortal sects harbored evil intentions. They wanted to use the 9th prince to kill Ling Xiao and also wanted to take the opportunity to see the 9th prince's true strength. Shall we fight here? Ling Xiao said slowly as a strong desire to fight surged in his eyes. The 9th prince shook his head as a faint smile appeared in his eyes. He said, "Let's fight outside the immortal realm in the chaotic void." Outside the immortal realm? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat as he stared deeply at the 9th prince. Could it be that the 9th prince had discovered his true identity? Otherwise, why would he initiate a fight outside the immortal realm? Was this a chance for him to escape, or was it a trap? After all, the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain and Jiang Yuyang were outside the immortal realm, waiting to receive him at any time. Ling Xiao's mind spun rapidly, but in the end, he nodded and said with a calm expression, "Sure." Regardless of whether the 9th prince had discovered his identity or whether it was a trap, the outside of the immortal realm was the best chance for him to escape. Although the crowd was slightly surprised, they did not say much. To the ninth prince, entering and leaving the immortal realm was a very simple matter. Especially now that the Great Tribulation was approaching and the Eternal Emperor's road was about to open, the seal on the immortal realm was getting looser. Many people would leave the immortal realm to explore the ruins and treasures in the chaotic void. However, most people felt a little regretful. This was because only the peerless immortal dukes of the 9 major immortal sects and the 6 major immortal sects were qualified to watch the fight, as well as a few high-level immortal dukes. Other than that, most people did not have the chance to witness the fight. This was indeed a great pity. Master, the ninth prince must be plotting something. You must be careful. The evil spirit reminded. I understand. He must have discovered my true identity and wants to lure the people from the immortal realm to save me so that he can take the opportunity to kill us all in one fell swoop. Ling Xiao smiled coldly as a bright light flashed in his eyes. Even though he knew that this could be a trap, Ling Xiao was not afraid at all. He leaped into the sky with the ninth prince and headed out of the immortal realm. Zhubi Chinese Network. Chapter 3084. Outside the immortal plane. The immortal plane was like a gigantic sphere, flowing with dazzling immortal light. The longevity tower was billions of zhang tall and it hovered above the immortal plane, sprinkling down ripples of light to envelop the entire immortal plane. The longevity tower was the guardian of the immortal plane. It was also the immortal race's treasure of fortune. Ling Xiao could vaguely see mist swirling around the longevity tower. Multicolored light shone brightly and the immortal race's incomparably powerful aura was like a sea of clouds, majestic and majestic. Above the sea of clouds, there were blurry and powerful figures. They contained the imprints of the great Tao and were incomparably terrifying. According to legends, those were the great emperors of the immortal race. Regardless of whether they were still alive or dead, every great emperor that appeared in the immortal race would leave an imprint on the longevity tower. That was the imprint and soul of a great emperor. It was said that if the immortal race were to encounter a great calamity one day, the longevity tower could summon those great emperors back. Of course, that was just a legend. Ling Xiao could see more than 10 of those blurry figures. He wondered just how many immortal emperors had appeared in the immortal race over the past 108 eras. Ling Xiao's heart was incomparably solemn. With the longevity tower, a flawless chaos treasure, who could break through the immortal plane with an immortal emperor. And if the immortal plane wanted to dominate the myriad planes and sweep through the myriad worlds, who could stop it? Not the humans, not the Yao, not the demons. He had to accumulate enough strength. Although Ling Xiao and the ninth prince were still within the longevity tower's range, they were already at the edge. In the distance, the chaotic mist spread out and the faint silhouette of a world could be seen. In truth, it was unknown how far away it was. The chaotic void was vast and boundless, containing countless secrets. Not even great emperors could fully explore it. Here, Ling Xiao was about to fight the ninth prince. Ling Xiao could sense that the emperor of Kunwa Mountain and Jiang Yuyang were hiding in the distant chaotic void, ready to receive him at any time and take him away from the immortal plane. However, this might be a trap. Ling Xiao did not want them to appear here. There was only one way to break this trap, and that was to defeat the ninth prince. Ling Xiao raised his head and his gaze fell on the ninth prince in the distance. A powerful battle intent surged within him. He had cultivated 100 scriptures and fused all methods, wanting to walk an unprecedented path of invincibility. He wanted to crush all geniuses of the past and present. He had long ago the belief that he was invincible. So what if he was the ninth prince? Even if it was the real His Highness the ninth prince, Ling Xiao would not be afraid at all, let alone a mere clone of the ninth prince. Let's fight. The blood in Ling Xiao's body was boiling, and it was as if there was mist rising from his body. The sharpness in his eyes was extremely bright. Whether it was the cauldron of creation, the heavenly sword illustration, or the heaven-devouring sword, Ling Xiao had put them all away. He was barehanded and looked ahead. At this moment he only was ninth prince alone. was ninth prince? Question mark. What strong conviction. Sensing the aura from Ling Xiao, the ninth prince's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. In the past, Ling Xiao gave him the feeling of an unsheathed divine sword, emitting a dazzling light. But now Ling Xiao's sword had been sheathed. Its sharpness was restrained, but it contained an even more terrifying and dangerous power. Lei Ling, I admit that you are qualified to fight with me now. Let's fight it out in one move. How about that? Ninth prince smiled. His smile was so dazzling that it made the world lose its color. As you wish. Ling Xiao's expression was calm, but there seemed to be flames burning in his eyes. Rumble. Dazzling divine light rose around him, and the battle intent in his eyes was unparalleled. The blood in his body boiled, and the meridians in his body let out a dragon's roar. He condensed all the energy in his body, containing the power of a tsunami. He was about to unleash an earth-shattering attack at any time. Ling Xiao was not surprised that he could fight it out in one move. The ninth prince in front of him was just a clone. Of course, the longer the battle dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. He might as well go all out and gather all his energy to unleash a killing blow. Although ninth prince was powerful, he did not underestimate Ling Xiao at all. Instead, he treated Ling Xiao as a powerful opponent. Bang! Ninth prince's expression was calm, and his temperament was otherworldly. He had a faint smile on his face as he walked toward Ling Xiao. His footsteps were light, but when he took a step forward, it was as if he was stepping on everyone's hearts. The world around him rumbled. A vast aura rose up and pressed down on Ling Xiao. Bang! 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 Ninth prince walked toward Ling Xiao with a warm smile. His eyes were bright and radiant, and he exuded an extremely strong sense of affinity. However, the surrounding people could clearly feel the coldness in ninth prince's smile. It was like a divine dragon in the sky looking down on ants. It was like the heavenly Tao facing all living things. It was as if a casual step could crush Ling Xiao. If ninth prince's aura was like a divine dragon, the heavenly Tao, and all living things in the universe, Ling Xiao's aura was the belief of all living things. It was the aura of invincibility, the boiling blood, and the determination to fight against heaven and earth. This was the battle between ninth prince and Ling Xiao. It was also a battle between heavenly Tao and heavenly Tao. Even the celestial dukes from the 9 major celestial sects and the 6 major divine sects who were watching the battle from afar had a solemn expression on their faces. Just the exchange of auras alone was enough to make them feel so strongly. They all understood that the next attack would definitely be like the collapse of the heavens and the earth, and it would be extremely grand. For some reason, a strong sense of anticipation rose in their hearts. Between ninth prince and Ling Xiao, who would emerge victorious? Rumble. Ling Xiao and the ninth prince were originally tens of thousands of feet apart. However, as the ninth prince took those 9 steps, the distance between them rapidly shrank. The terrifying aura that was suppressing Ling Xiao was like an immortal great thousand world, vast to the extreme. Under such great pressure, Ling Xiao's body instantly emitted endless rays of light. Blazing flames rose, revealing the color of chaos. His entire body was filled with an eternal and immortal aura. Kill! Ling Xiao let out a loud shout. It was like the first voice at the beginning of the world, splitting apart the chaos and awakening life. Following that was a peerless fist print that seemed to have condensed endless chaos. It pierced through the past and the present and descended upon ninth prince. Chapter 3085. Ling Xiao's fist was like a raging volcano as it whistled through the air. However, it was also like 100 rivers returning to the sea. All of his strength instantly gathered into one and exploded into a peerless punch. There was no secret technique, no emperor technique, no great Tao law, and no so-called technique. All of his strength had gathered into one and turned into a simple punch. The return of his strength to its origin was to kill. At this moment, Ling Xiao had no other thoughts in his mind. There was only the ninth prince in his eyes. There was only one thought in his mind. Kill the ninth prince. Kill him. Ling Zhao's fist imprint arrived in an instant. The dazzling divine light even reflected the ninth prince's bright eyes. The space around the ninth prince seemed to be distorted. It was as if countless years of time were stacked together, constantly devouring the power in Ling Zhao's punch. At the same time, the ninth prince pointed his finger at Ling Zhao's forehead. His finger was crystal clear and slender, as flawless as white jade. However, it was shrouded in chaotic light. It seemed to have come from an origin and instantly exploded with endless strength. It opened up heaven and earth, divided all things, and condensed the heavenly Tao law and all things. Sky-splitting finger? Legend has it that this is a supreme immortal technique that the ninth prince created himself. The immortal emperor said that it was a peerless finger technique that was not weaker than an emperor technique. Combined with his own strength, who can stop him? Tai Qingzi exclaimed in surprise. This finger technique made him feel a strong sense of threat. Sky-splitting finger was a supreme immortal technique that the ninth prince created himself. It could threaten a peerless immortal emperor. Ling Xiao was only a second heaven imperial emperor. How could he resist it? Lei Ling's punch vaguely contained the emperor's true intent. Unfortunately, his cultivation is still too weak. Wu Xiong's eyes shone brightly as he spoke slowly. Idiot! Do you know what true strength is? No wonder idiots like you can't become an emperor in your lifetime. Gu Tongtian sneered, causing the people from the 9 major immortal sects to glare at him. However, his expression was normal as he stared at the scene of the battle between Ling Xiao and the ninth prince. There was a hint of passion in his eyes. The ninth prince's sky-splitting finger contained supreme power that could split the world apart. It actually arrived first, piercing through Ling Zhao's forehead in an instant. The destructive power swept towards Ling Zhao's indestructible soul like a storm. At this moment, Ling Zhao's fist barely managed to break through the space-time barrier around the ninth prince and press down on him. The ninth prince's body shook slightly, and he actually dodged Ling Zhao's punch at an unbelievable angle. Then he attacked again with a finger. Puff! It was still the same heaven-splitting finger. The sharp finger light was as fast as lightning, surpassing the speed of thought. It directly tore through Ling Zhao's flesh and pierced his heart. Rumble! Boundless divine light gushed out from Ling Zhao's body as a violent aura spread out. He was like a sun that was about to shatter as his aura rapidly weakened. Even Ling Zhao's indestructible bones trembled violently after being struck by the ninth prince's sky-splitting finger, as if they would shatter at any moment. You have lost. The ninth prince said calmly as he stood in front of Ling Xiao and looked him in the eye. Even a supreme celestial duke would not be able to block his heaven-splitting finger. Ling Zhao's indestructible soul and heart had been attacked at the same time. This was already a fatal injury. However, Ling Zhao's fist did not pose any threat to the ninth prince. That might not be the case. Purple gold blood flowed out from the corner of Ling Zhao's mouth, but his eyes revealed a hint of mockery. Rumble! In an instant, the light that gushed out from Ling Zhao's body actually turned into dense fist imprints in the void. Each fist imprint contained a power that could destroy the heavens and earth. All of the fist prints gathered together like an immortal mountain and pressed down on the ninth prince. Originally, Ling Zhao's punch seemed to have been completely exhausted and destroyed by the distorted space-time around the ninth prince. However, at this moment, it arrived with a loud rumble, obliterating the layers of space-time and smashing into the ninth prince's chest. The immortal light around the ninth prince shattered, and the space-time was destroyed. All of his defensive powers cracked open like a spider web before completely exploding. Ling Zhao's domineering punch was not blocked at all as it pierced through the ninth prince's chest. The divine mountain fist in the sky came crashing down and directly destroyed the ninth prince's head. Rumble! The ninth prince's entire body exploded into a dazzling rain of light in the void. A strong sense of weakness washed over him. Ling Zhao's body trembled and he almost fell to the ground. After unleashing such a peerless punch and letting go of all his defenses, he was heavily injured by the ninth prince. His body was on the verge of collapsing. However, he still forced himself to stand up straight and looked into the distance. There, the celestial light gathered and the ninth prince's body reformed. However, he looked much more illusory and seemed like he would shatter at any moment. What a powerful fist technique. It can actually integrate the power of the great Tao origin. I was too careless. What is the name of this fist technique? The ninth prince said with a sigh. I call it the origin fist. Ling Xiao said calmly. His arm was trembling slightly, and all the meridians in his body had been shattered. If it wasn't for his bones being strong enough, his physical body would have been shattered by now. This kind of power was not something he could control. Ling Xiao's aura had been accumulated to the maximum. It was as if he had entered a state of enlightenment. With the 12 great Tao origins as the foundation, he had integrated the 12 great Tao origins into his fist and unleashed a shocking attack. This was the power of the fusion of origins. Others might not be able to tell, but the ninth prince could. Return to the origin of all Taos. The origin fist is indeed a good name. You have won this battle. The ninth prince said calmly. All the celestial dukes who were watching the battle fell silent. Upon hearing the ninth prince's words, the eyes of the peerless celestial dukes turned solemn. Perhaps the high-level celestial dukes couldn't tell, but the peerless celestial dukes looked at Ling Xiao solemnly. Before this, they had not taken Ling Xiao seriously. Although Ling Xiao had killed Ning Wuji, it was only because of the power of the cauldron of creation. However, they were starting to take Ling Xiao seriously now. This was because Ling Xiao had already displayed a power that was enough to threaten them. I have won. Where is your trump card? You wouldn't hand over the 9 fragments of the cauldron of creation to me so easily, right? Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. He looked calm on the surface, but his body was frantically activating the devouring fruit of Tao. He was devouring the power he had accumulated from killing Ning Wuji. Both his flesh and primordial spirit had turned into a vast amount of origin energy and started to nourish his body and primordial spirit. He was recovering rapidly so that he could deal with the upcoming battle. Chapter 3086. These are the 9 fragments of the cauldron of creation. They're yours. The ninth prince smiled faintly. Immortal light glowed in his palm as the 9 fragments flew toward Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao was stunned. He didn't expect the ninth prince to hand over the 9 fragments so easily. However, Ling Xiao did not hesitate and directly grabbed the 9 fragments of the cauldron of creation. With these 9 fragments, the cauldron of creation would be complete. Lei Ling, you're stronger than when you were in the demon realm. I hope to see you again on the Eternal Emperor's Road. When the time comes, I won't hold back. The ninth prince said to Ling Xiao. Then, he turned into a dazzling rain of light and slowly disappeared. Boom! It was as if a thunderbolt had exploded in Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness. He recognized me. Ling Xiao's body shook and his eyes were filled with disbelief. The thing he was most worried about had happened. The ninth prince had recognized him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have mentioned the demon realm. But why didn't the ninth prince expose him? If his identity as a human was exposed, neither the 9 great immortal sects nor the 6 great divine sects would let him off easily. His Highness the ninth prince had let him off so easily? What about the so-called conspiracy? While Ling Xiao was shocked, he also felt incomparably depressed. It was as if his punch had landed on cotton. It was light as a feather, and he had lost his target. What is he plotting? Ling Xiao couldn't figure it out. The immortal tribe and the divine tribe were mortal enemies. Logically speaking, the ninth prince wouldn't let him off so easily. Even if he didn't kill him, he would take away his treasures like the cauldron of creation and the heavenspan sword diagram. But now, the ninth prince had left just like that. The old man in Taoist robes next to the immortal emperor chariot gave Ling Xiao a deep look before leaving with the chariot. The eyes of the many peerless immortal lords of the 9 great immortal sects flickered with murderous intent. They stared at Ling Xiao as if they were going to attack him at any moment. But they held back in the end. Let's go! Following Tai Chingzi's order, everyone from the 9 great immortal sects turned and left, returning to the immortal world through the longevity tower. Soon, only Ling Xiao and the people from the six divine sects were left outside the immortal realm. Led by Gu Tongtan, the sect masters of the six divine sects were all peerless celestial dukes. Their eyes were like lightning as they looked at Ling Xiao, scrutinizing him. Although Ling Xiao controlled the cauldron of creation and was undoubtedly the child of God, and he had displayed such shocking battle prowess, Ling Xiao was still a child of God. However, Ling Xiao was too young, and his cultivation was also a little weak. It was not enough to make the six great sect masters submit to him. Lei Ling, from today onwards, you are the God tribe's son of God. Everyone below the six of us in the God tribe will be under your control. If one day you can defeat the six of us, we will also acknowledge you as our master. Gu Tongtian said slowly to Ling Xiao with a complicated look in his eyes. All right. Ling Xiao nodded and said. He understood the meaning of Gu Tongtian's words. Ling Xiao's battle prowess was strong, and his talent was monstrous. He had conquered countless people from the six divine sects, but if he wanted to conquer the six sect masters, he was still lacking. Gu Tongtian and the other five would acknowledge Ling Xiao's status as the child of God, but they would not swear loyalty to Ling Xiao. Moreover, Ling Xiao could feel that Gu Tongtian and the other five were all heroes of their own regions. The bloodline shackles in their bodies had been broken. Otherwise, their cultivation would not have reached their current level. Everyone, I don't need you to swear loyalty to me. After today's incident, I'm afraid that the 9 great immortal sects will attack us. I suggest that all the descendants of the God tribe move to the Hall of Gods. I will use the God tribe seal and the cauldron of creation to break the bloodline shackles for all the descendants of the God tribe. Ling Xiao looked at Gu Tongtian and the other 5 and said slowly. Although these 6 peerless immortal dukes were very strong, they were nothing to Ling Xiao now. He could vaguely feel that the Eternal Emperor Road was about to open. He had to settle the people of the God tribe before that. This was an incomparably strong force. Once the bloodline shackles were broken, there would be a day when they would explode with enough power. Ling Xiao was the child of God, the Lord of Demons. Now that he had the title of Child of God, it was nothing. Next, the most important place for Ling Xiao was the Eternal Emperor Road. That was the place where countless geniuses and experts from all over the universe, from ancient times to the present. There were white bones there, and there was also the opportunity to become an emperor. There was also the good fortune to transcend. Ling Xiao no longer cared about what the 9th prince was plotting. At the very least, according to the 9th prince's words, the eternal immortal dynasty would not act against him before the Eternal Emperor Road opened. Knowing this, Ling Xiao understood that he was not in any danger in the immortal realm. The most important thing now was to increase his strength and become stronger. All right. Gu Tongtian and the other 5 looked at each other, then nodded. Although Ling Xiao knew that the Emperor of Kunwu Mountain and Jiang Yuyang were near the immortal realm, he still chose to return. He had more important things to do. Before leaving, Ling Xiao took a deep look at the chaotic void in the distance, a strange light flashing in his eyes. Finally, Ling Xiao returned to the immortal realm. After Ling Xiao returned to the immortal realm, 2 figures appeared in the chaotic void in the distance. I didn't expect Ling Xiao to have grown to such a level. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Jiang Yuyang sighed softly, his eyes full of admiration. I didn't expect it either. The path of origin fusion? This may be an invincible path, but it may also be a broken path. After all, even the Celestial Emperor failed back then. The Emperor of Kunwu Mountain spoke slowly, the vicissitudes of time flowing in his eyes. The Celestial Emperor. Although the Celestial Emperor failed, Ling Xiao may succeed. The foundation of the human race is still too weak. In this great calamity, we don't expect the human race to become the epic lord. We only hope that the human race can preserve enough of its bloodline. Jiang Yuyang smiled wryly. Ling Xiao has already gathered enough information and intelligence. This is of utmost importance to the human race. He has his own path to walk, so we don't need to worry about him. The human race's plan is about to begin. The Emperor of Kunwu Mountain spoke slowly, a strange light flowing in his palm. Ling Zhao's glance at the chaotic void was enough for him to send a message. The Emperor of Kunwu Mountain had already received the message. That's right. After the opening of the Eternal Emperor Road, the great calamity will descend soon. When the time comes, we have to find a pure land for the human race, where the human race can live and flourish. With the myriad races fighting for supremacy, countless sealed prodigies will return. How many of the human race will return? Jiang Yuyang sighed softly, his voice sorrowful. There's no need to be sad. The weak feel sorry for themselves, while the strong strive for self-improvement. With Ling Xiao, Zhao Ritian, and Dugu Qiubai, the human race still has hope. Dugu Qiubai? The peerless genius who entered the Tao through the sword? That's right. He's already broken through to the Emperor realm, and now he's even stepped into the Mausoleum of Swords. When the Eternal Emperor Road opens, he'll definitely be able to embark on his journey to the Emperor Road. Doesn't that mean all three of them have the potential to become great emperors? Perhaps even more. The Emperor of Kunwu Mountain and Jiang Yuyang spoke as they disappeared into the chaotic void. Third Sect Master. Chapter 3087. Immortal World, Eternal Celestial Dynasty. Inside a bronze celestial palace, the ninth prince slowly opened his eyes. Immortal light gathered in his eyes, as if the images of time and space were flowing and changing. In front of him, chaotic fog filled the air. Amidst the rising immortal light, a mysterious figure appeared. "Greetings, Father." His Highness the Ninth Prince bowed slightly. "You gave away the cauldron of creation fragment?" He didn't notice anything wrong, did he? A calm and ethereal voice rang out, causing the entire bronze celestial palace to tremble slightly. The mysterious figure looked like a middle-aged man. Although his face couldn't be seen clearly, his body contained a power that could destroy heaven and earth. Just by standing there, he seemed to be an entire world. He was the ruler of Eternal Celestial Dynasty, the Celestial Emperor. I gave it away. However, I didn't hold back. Although Ling Zhao's cultivation is only at the second heaven of the high immortal realm, he controlled the power of fused origins and destroyed my clone. His Highness the Ninth Prince nodded. The power of fused origins? This might be difficult for others, but he has the wordless heavenly book, so it's not that difficult. A second heaven of the high immortal realm is enough to destroy your clone? Looks like I didn't misjudge you. The Celestial Emperor said calmly, his voice filled with emotion. Father, I don't understand why you let him go and gave him the cauldron of creation instead. The wordless heavenly book and heavenly sword diagram on him can also be used by me. The Ninth Prince said, You don't understand. The wordless heavenly book has chosen him, so no one can take it away from him. It's the same for the heavenly sword diagram. Moreover, he's very useful to us. The divines aren't our enemies. Perhaps they're our allies. Allies? Do we have enemies? Of course. They're powerful enough to make even the great emperors tremble. Even though we've been accumulating strength for so many years, I'm afraid it'll be difficult. Enemies that make even the great emperors tremble? Poor they. The Ninth Prince's eyes also revealed a trace of shock. I can't say. They're everywhere. The Celestial Emperor shook his head. You only need to remember that even though we are enemies with the gods, we cannot exterminate them. We even have to protect them. As for Ling Xiao, he's a powerful chess piece and your best stepping stone. It's not that you can't die, but you can't die now, understand? The Immortal Emperor said slowly. Understood. His Highness the Ninth Prince nodded. You are the hope of the eternal immortal dynasty, but are you not the hope of the immortal race? On the eternal emperor's path, you must become the only. The voice of the immortal emperor was faintly discernible, filled with weariness. He turned and departed, his silhouette vanishing from the Ninth Prince's sight. Eternal Emperor's Road. The Ninth Prince's eyes shone brightly, as if they could pierce through everything. In the end, The bronze immortal palace emitted a vast chaotic light and slowly disappeared into the void as if it had never appeared. When Ling Xiao returned to the old god cult, he was welcomed and worshipped like a hero. In the immortal demon grotto, he'd single-handedly slaughtered all the disciples of the 9 great sects and won the immortal demon gathering. Of course, the 6 divine sects no longer cared about the prize of the 6 great Tao states. The divine clan seal and cauldron of creation, the 2 greatest treasures of fortune, had both returned and were in Ling Xiao's possession. Who would dare say that Ling Xiao wasn't the son of God now? Needless to say, the 120 divine generals had already become Ling Xiao's loyal followers. As long as Ling Xiao gave the order, they wouldn't even frown if they had to die. The rest of the 6 divine sects had also been won over by Ling Xiao. This was especially true when he'd killed one of the 9th prince's clones in the chaos outside the world of immortals. The young disciples couldn't contain their excitement. Who was the 9th prince? He was known as the top genius of the world of immortals. Even Taiyuan, the strongest holy son of the 9 great sects, wasn't qualified to be his follower. But now Ling Xiao had killed one of his clones. This was enough to shock the entire world of immortals. Therefore, when Ling Xiao and the leaders of the 6 divine sects announced at the same time that all members of the divine clan were to move into the Hall of Gods, no one raised any objections. Everyone was incomparably obedient and entered the Hall of Gods. The Hall of Gods was an incomparably mysterious world. It was vast and boundless and contained boundless origin energy and immortal matter. Rumor had it that it was a world created by the 12 ancestor gods. Once the divine clan entered the Hall of Gods, they would be safe at least until the great tribulation of the epoch arrived and the worlds merged. In a month's time, all members of the divine clan had entered the Hall of Gods. Under the arrangements of the 6 divine sects, they began to build residences, harvest treasures, and refine weapons. Most of them relied on the rich resources of the Hall of Gods to cultivate. During this time, Ling Xiao had also used the Sky Devourer to stimulate the Chaos Flames and completely refined the 4 Skirich immortal swords. The Skirich Sword Atlas had also completely transformed into Ling Xiao's Sky Devourer Sword Atlas. The Sky Devourer Sword and the Sky Devourer Sword Atlas had become Ling Xiao's natal treasures and were being nurtured in his primordial spirit. In this month's time, Ling Xiao's injuries had also completely healed. In the battle with the 9th prince's clone, Ling Xiao had also suffered extremely serious injuries. The sky-splitting finger had been incomparably stunning and had left a deep impression on Ling Xiao. However, Ning Wuji's death had also helped Ling Xiao. This was a senior and peerless immortal monarch. His flesh, blood, and soul core were existences comparable to supreme treasures, and they contained vast quintessence energy and eternal energy. Not only had it allowed Ling Xiao's injuries to be healed, his cultivation had even improved. As for the 9 fragments of the Cauldron of Creation, Ling Xiao was not in a hurry to fuse them into the Cauldron of Creation. Ling Xiao could vaguely sense that the moment the Cauldron of Creation was completely complete, perhaps an unimaginable change would occur. That moment would also be the best time to break the bloodline shackles of the descendants of the divine clan. Ling Xiao had an ambition. He wanted to completely break the bloodline shackles of all the descendants of the divine clan and transform them into true divine clan members. From then on, they would be reborn. These 1 billion divine clan members will become the seeds of the divine clan. They will become the strength of the divine clan's revival and rise. Ling Xiao murmured to himself softly. His eyes were filled with radiance. He stood in the Hall of Gods, on the highest sacred ancestor mountain. In front of him were 1 billion divine clan members, which was also all the divine clan members in the immortal realm. 1 billion divine clan members seemed like a lot, but compared to the trillions or even hundreds of trillions of immortal clan members, it was pitifully small. However, from today onwards, these 1 billion divine clan members would be reborn and reborn. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 3088. Rumble. The Shen clan seal and cauldron of creation floated above sacred ancestor mountain and shone with dazzling light. These two treasures of the Shen clan had finally returned to the Shen clan. Ling Xiao was surrounded by light and a chaotic mist rose. He formed a strange resonance with the Shen clan seal and cauldron of creation, allowing these two treasures to move according to his will. The Shen clan seal wielded the supreme authority of the Shen clan and became the master of the Shen clan. The cauldron of creation gathered the fortune of the Shen clan and became the king of the Shen clan. Now that these two treasures were in Ling Xiao's hands, Ling Xiao was recognized as the son of God by all the Shen clan and carried the hope of countless Shen clan. Ling Xiao was prepared to use these two treasures to break the bloodline shackles of all the Shen clan members. The light from the Shen clan seal and cauldron of creation was as warm and dazzling as the sun, enveloping all the Shen clan members. Ling Xiao could vaguely see that above the heads of all the God clan members, there was a mysterious line that was connected to the God clan seal and the cauldron of creation. It turned into a mist and rose into the air. That was the fortune of the Shen clan. Now that 1 billion Shen clan members had returned, the fortune of the Shen clan began to flourish. This was also the best opportunity to break the bloodline shackles of the Shen clan. God bless the Shen clan, cauldron of creation gather. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly as he roared out. The 9 fragments of the cauldron of creation suddenly rose into the air like 9 streams of light and merged with the cauldron of creation. Rumble! The cauldron of creation shone brightly as an ancient and mysterious aura spread out. It was like the power of creation that could split heaven and earth, surging and boiling in this world. The cauldron of creation suddenly expanded in the void like an immemorial sacred mountain. The mouth of the cauldron was facing down and exuded a majestic devouring power. In an instant, all the Shen clan members were swallowed into the cauldron of creation. Clang! The Shen clan seal fell and suppressed the mouth of the cauldron of creation. It began to spew out blazing flames. The flames were transparent and were the fortune of the Shen clan. They surged into the cauldron of creation and enveloped all the Shen clan members. Rumble! Within the cauldron of creation, the 1 billion God race beings were covered in flames. Divine light surged as their bloodlines began to tremble violently. Strange black chains appeared in their bloodlines and above their primordial spirits. They were like divine chains of order, imprisoning their bloodlines and primordial spirits. The bloodline shackles were like some sort of curse, but also like some sort of grand Tao energy that could extend to their descendants for generations to come. He was determined to exterminate the entire Protoss. It was not easy for the God race to survive in the immortal world for so many years. Who left behind this bloodline shackles? Immortals? Ling Xiao thought to himself as a sharp light flashed in his eyes. But he quickly rejected this idea. With the immortal tribe's current strength, the so-called God tribe and the 6 divine sects were no match for the immortal tribe. They could probably wipe out the entire God tribe with a wave of their hand. Moreover, from the attitude of the eternal immortal dynasty and the 9 immortal sects, although they treated the God race with hostility and acted ruthlessly and mercilessly, they had never thought of exterminating the God race. In fact, they were secretly protecting the God race. This was the strangest thing Ling Xiao had discovered since coming to the immortal world. If it's not the bloodline shackles left behind by the immortal tribe, who else could it be? Does the God race have other enemies? Ling Xiao thought to himself. He couldn't shake off the feeling that there was a great secret hidden behind all this fog. No matter who left behind the bloodline shackles, I'm sure the mastermind will react to such a big move from me, right? Ling Xiao thought to himself. He continued to activate the God Seal and Cauldron of Creation, using the fortune to refine the bloodline shackles within the 1 billion God race beings. Ling Xiao could sense that the bloodline shackles within the 1 billion God race beings seemed to have some sort of connection with each other. They constantly twisted and struggled violently, stubbornly resisting the burning of the fortune. However, with fortune as the cauldron, the divine seal as the workmanship, and the fortune as the fire, this was an unstoppable momentum of the world. It wouldn't be long before the bloodline shackles shattered completely. Gu Tongtian and the rest of the 6 sect masters hovered in the air, watching the scene unfold before them. Gu Tongtian, if Lei Ling really does break the bloodline shackles for the 1 billion God race beings, then he won't just be the son of a god. He'll probably become the divine lord of the entire god race. Are you willing to accept that? The sect master of the Still Destruction sect was a young man with a head of wildly dancing purple hair. He smiled faintly at Gu Tongtian. What's there to be unwilling about? If he really can lead the god race to the top, then what's wrong with worshipping him as the divine lord? If he can defeat me one day, I'll even be willing to acknowledge him as my master. I'm just worried that he won't be able to shoulder such a heavy responsibility. Gu Tongtian smiled faintly. Aren't you tempted? That's the divine lord we're talking about. The sect master of the Still Destruction sect laughed. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking, Ji Wu. The god race is so weak that it can't withstand great turmoil. If anyone dares to cause internal strife in the god race, I'll be the first to not let them off. Gu Tongtian glanced at him and said faintly. The remaining 5 sect masters couldn't help but feel their hearts tremble. They hurriedly smiled and said they wouldn't dare. Gu Tongtian was a peerless, ruthless person. It could be seen from the fact that he hadn't fallen into a disadvantageous position when fighting the 4 peerless immortal lords of the 9 major immortal sects alone. 10,000 years ago, when Gu Tongtian had just broken through to the peerless immortal emperor realm, he'd once killed a veteran peerless immortal emperor. No one knew exactly how strong his current combat strength was. The 5 sect masters of the divine sects were extremely afraid of him. Thus, they had always treated him as their leader. The 6 of them were all peerless heroes with great fortune. They naturally wouldn't submit to Ling Xiao so easily. But for the greater good of the god race, they wouldn't plot against him behind his back. Rumble! The god race seal and the cauldron of creation both spewed out blazing divine light. Bolts of lightning as thick as mountains fell from the sky and struck the god race seal and the cauldron of creation, revealing all kinds of mysterious and unfathomable phenomena. The image of 1 billion god race members vaguely appeared in the cauldron of creation. The bloodline shackles in their bodies were like black divine chains of order. At this moment, under the burning of the fire of fortune, cracks began to appear. Are 1 billion god race members about to be reborn and break the bloodline shackles? At this moment, even Gu Tongtian and the other 5 sect masters couldn't remain calm. Their eyes were filled with incomparable anticipation. Boom! In the sky, dark clouds rolled, and lightning blazed and dazzled, exuding a vast and unparalleled heavenly might. But at this moment, there was a strange black fog spreading out. It seemed to be able to devour all light and vitality. It enveloped the god race seal, the cauldron of creation, and Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. The strange black fog made him feel cold all over, and he felt a strong sense of danger. Chapter 3089. Buzz. The strange black fog seemed to be attracted by the bloodline shackles in the bodies of the 1 billion divines. It wanted to surge into the cauldron of creation. The cauldron of creation and the divine's seal shone brightly. The surging fire of fortune spread out. The strange black fog was illuminated by the light and burned by the fire of fortune. It crackled like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. Rumble! The more it was so, the more the strange black fog in the sky. It even shrouded Ling Xiao and the 6 great sect masters. In the black fog, the void seemed to be distorted. A bone-chilling aura spread out. It was as if some incomparably strange existence was about to rush out. Oh no, the strange creature has appeared. Gu Tongtian's face changed, and his expression became extremely solemn. The remaining 5 sect masters also showed a look of horror in their eyes. They had all encountered this strange creature before. When they broke through to the immortal monarch realm and broke through the bloodline shackles in their bodies, this kind of strange black fog appeared. Moreover, incomparably strange creatures rushed out from it, wanting to completely annihilate them. They had also paid a huge price to kill those strange creatures and break through to the immortal monarch realm with great difficulty. What they did not expect was that now that the 1 billion divines had broken through the bloodline shackles, the strange black fog would appear again. Moreover, the strange black fog now was even more terrifying than when they broke through to the supreme immortal realm. Kill! Murderous intent boiled in Gu Tongtian's eyes. Sword chi spread around him. He slashed in the air. A huge sword light cut across the void and instantly attacked the surging black fog in front of him. Kiki, in the strange black fog, there was a sound that made one's heart go numb. Then, a black claw attacked. It looked like it was cast in gold and was incomparably hard. There was also black hair on it that emitted a dim light. The black claw instantly tore apart Gu Tongtian's sword chi. Then, without slowing down, it went straight for Gu Tongtian's head. "You're courting death." Gu Tongtian's eyes flashed fiercely. In his palm, a blazing sword light flashed. In an instant, the heavy sword appeared. Then, it expanded to hundreds of feet in the void. With a force that could split Mount Hua, it slashed down at the black claw. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. Sparks flew from the black claw, and a black bloody mark appeared. The creature in the strange black fog roared in pain, causing the black fog around it to spread even faster. Bush, bush, bush. At that moment, over a dozen black tentacles that resembled pythons shot forth with lightning speed to coil around Gu Tongtian. Bastard die! Gu Tongtian's eyes were filled with killing intent. Holding the heavy sword, he swept it in all directions. The sword light was extremely sharp. Like a bolt of lightning, it instantly cut off the dozen tentacles. After the tentacles were severed, black blood spurted out. It was extremely corrosive and was still twisting violently, as if it still wanted to attack Gu Tongtian. Gu Tongtian did not dodge. Sword aura rose around him, cutting those tentacles to pieces. He then charged straight into the strange black fog. Rumble! The strange black fog surged violently, accompanied by a cold and furious voice. There was also a blazing divine light. Gu Tongtian and the creature in the black fog broke out in a fierce battle. Although the 5 sect masters were frightened, this was a major event that concerned whether the 1 billion divine race members could break the bloodline seal. It was also the key to their survival. Without the slightest hesitation, they clenched their teeth and followed Gu Tongtian into the strange black fog. At that moment, Ling Xiao was also in a life-and-death situation. The strange black fog had no way of rushing into the cauldron of creation. It was almost instantly shattered by the divine race seal and the cauldron of creation. The bloodline seal in the 1 billion divine race members' bodies was rapidly breaking down. The creature in the strange black fog seemed to know that Ling Xiao was the key. It immediately roared across the sky and charged toward him. Rumble! Sensing the power and terror of the creature in the strange black fog, Ling Xiao did not hesitate to summon the heaven-swallowing sword picture. The heaven-swallowing sword picture bloomed with blazing light. Extreme emperor aura filled the air. Rays of sword aura crisscrossed the void, forming a sword domain that protected Ling Xiao in the center. The heaven-swallowing sword rose into the air. It bloomed with dazzling light in Ling Xiao's hand. Then, it slashed down at the incoming black fog. Clang! The heaven-swallowing sword had merged with the 4 great immortal swords and nurtured 4 peerless sword intents. It was extremely sharp and invincible. A crisp sound rang out. Sparks flew in all directions. Ling Xiao's arm was numb from the impact. Within the black fog, a huge black claw was chopped off by Ling Xiao. Roar! The strange creature in the black fog felt pain and roared in anger. That roar contained an incomparably terrifying sound wave, wanting to directly rush into Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness and destroy his indestructible primordial spirit. However, Ling Xiao's primordial spirit was protected by 16 Dao fruits. At the same time, it was supported by the wordless heavenly tome. Such sound waves could not affect him at all. He attacked with his sword. Sword aura crisscrossed the void. Under the support of the heaven-swallowing sword picture, Ling Xiao performed a peerless sword technique and continuously attacked the strange creature in the black fog. Is this strange black fog the power of the mastermind? Ling Xiao's heart trembled. His gaze was extremely solemn. He did not expect that 1 billion divine race members would release their bloodline shackles at the same time. It would cause such a terrifying phenomenon. The creature in the strange black fog only revealed half of its claws. It looked like a demon beast, but also like a demon. However, its strength was extremely terrifying. It seemed to be born from the strange black fog. It could devour all life and all the power of light. Under the cover of the strange black fog, all the grass and trees on Sacred Ancestor Mountain withered instantly and turned into ashes. It was as if all life had been sucked out. This place instantly became a land of death. Ling Xiao could feel that the strange black fog seemed to have a mind of its own and wanted to enter his body. As if it had seen a delicious beast, the strange black fog wanted to devour the life in Ling Xiao's body. Rumble. Flames rose around Ling Xiao's body. The heaven-devouring flames burned everything. The strange black fog crackled, and some black bugs appeared. Then they turned into nothingness in an instant. This weird black fog is actually a creature that looks like a floating bug? Ling Xiao's body trembled. He instantly felt his scalp go numb. Chapter 3090. The strange black fog seemed to have appeared out of thin air. No one knew where it came from. Moreover, other than the power of the God Clan seal and the Cauldron of Creation, ordinary attacks could not cause any harm to it. Especially the creatures in the strange black fog. They were extremely powerful and impossible to defend against. Even though Ling Xiao had taken out the sky-swallowing sword diagram and the sky-swallowing sword, he was still extremely cautious. He had a feeling that the strange black fog might disappear when the bloodline shackles in the 1 billion God clansmen were all broken. Rumble. Sword intent rose around Ling Xiao. The sky-swallowing sword was extremely sharp. Ling Xiao was not afraid of the attacks from the strange black fog. His physical body was what he relied on the most. Although those strange creatures were strong, Ling Xiao could feel that their physical bodies were not strong. Moreover, those creatures were attached to the strange black fog. It was as if the strange black fog was the source of their power. Kiki, the cold and strange sound made one's scalp tingle. A strange black fog surged around Ling Xiao, as if it had enveloped his entire being. He wielded his sword and attacked. Sword chi swept out in all directions, swift and fierce to the extreme. Every slash of his sword was able to severely injure the creatures within the strange black fog. Although the scales, claws, and tentacles were strong, they were still no match for the sharpness of the sky-swallowing sword. There's some kind of reincarnation energy in the strange black fog? Ling Xiao's heart trembled. His eyes shone brightly. Although it was very weak, Ling Xiao could still feel that the aura of death gathered in the strange black fog. However, there was also life energy in it. It was like the power of reincarnation. Those strange creatures were also between life and death. It was very strange. The tentacles and claws that Ling Xiao had cut off were quickly destroyed by the strange black fog. They completely disappeared. The 6 sect masters in the distance all charged into the strange black fog to fight. The black fog burned brightly. Divine light rose. The battle was extremely intense. However, even with the interference of the 6 sect leaders, Ling Xiao was still treated as the key and focus of the strange black fog. Powerful and terrifying creatures rushed out from the strange black fog, making it impossible for people to defend against them. Rumble. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He attacked with the sky-swallowing sword. A reincarnation energy began to spread from his body. It was the reincarnation Dao fruit that Ling Xiao had condensed. Ling Xiao guessed that if this strange black fog was formed by the power of reincarnation, then perhaps his reincarnation Dao fruit could dispel this strange black fog? Ling Xiao's body shone with a strange light. The reincarnation Dao fruit radiated with the power of reincarnation, which spread out in all directions. Boom! As though it had sensed Ling Xiao's reincarnation aura, the strange black fog started to boil. The strange creatures let out excited cries as they charged towards Ling Xiao in a frenzy. Not good. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. It seemed like the reincarnation Dao fruit had the opposite effect. Ling Xiao unleashed a powerful force to block the attacks coming from all directions. At the same time, the devouring fire spread out. He had activated the devouring fruit of the way. Since the strange black fog was some kind of power or living being, perhaps it could be devoured by the devouring Tao fruit. Boom! The fruit of the way of devouring bloomed with dazzling light above Ling Xiao's head. It was as dazzling as the sun, and it formed a powerful devouring vortex. The strange black fog surged and was refined by the devouring vortex. The black bugs within were instantly annihilated. However, Ling Xiao discovered that although the strange black fog could be refined, the speed of refinement was extremely slow. There seemed to be some kind of powerful will within it that was preventing him from refining it. What kind of existence is this strange black fog? Ling Xiao was extremely shocked. At the same time, he was filled with doubt. On the other hand, the strange black fog became even more enraged. The powerful attacks that came from it caused Ling Xiao to be injured. Wounds appeared on his body, leaving behind black marks. There seemed to be bugs that wanted to burrow into his body through the wounds, but they were all burned to ashes by the devouring fire. Even so, the powerful corrosiveness of the strange black fog still caused Ling Xiao's injuries to worsen. Ling Xiao could not resist that kind of power. At this moment, the god Mark and the cauldron of creation shone brightly. The 1 billion gods in the cauldron of creation all roared at the same time. Dazzling light spewed out of their bodies as their blood boiled. The divine chains of order that originally wrapped around their bloodlines and primordial spirits shattered instantly. The vast fortune of the gods washed over their physical bodies, causing them to be reborn. Their auras were also rapidly strengthening. Their strength caused the fortune of the gods to become thicker and thicker. In the end, a vast cloud of fog appeared above the god Mark and the cauldron of creation. It shone with dazzling light. Just right. Ling Xiao's eyes lit up. He was instantly energized. Rumble. With a thought, the god Mark and the cauldron of creation instantly shot into the sky. Dazzling divine light spread out in all directions. After the divine light shone on the strange black fog, it began to melt like snow. The god Mark and the cauldron of creation were like two ancient divine mountains. They were mighty and directly blasted into the center of the strange black fog. Crack! It was as if some kind of existence had been shattered. A crisp sound was heard, but it was followed by an angry roar that shook the void. Boom! A huge crack appeared in the sky. The strange black fog actually emitted waves of unwillingness. However, it still surged into the crack like a tide. At this moment, the 6 great sect masters had also emerged from the strange black fog. However, they all looked a little miserable at this moment. There were black scars on their bodies. Their auras became a little chaotic. Their eyes were extremely solemn. Want to leave? It won't be that easy. Ling Xiao sneered. The god Mark and the cauldron of creation shot into the sky at the same time. They instantly blasted into the center of the strange black fog and blasted it into pieces. In the center of the strange black fog, an extremely strange giant beast appeared. It looked like a giant squid. There were countless black tentacles all over its body. Its black eyes were filled with cruelty, evil, and bloodthirstiness. Its body trembled. It instantly wanted to escape back into the strange black fog. However, Ling Xiao did not give it the chance. The god Mark and the cauldron of creation suppressed it at the same time. Even if the giant squid beast was extremely powerful, it was still suppressed by the cauldron of creation in an instant. Boom! The strange black fog disappeared like a tide. It was clean, as if it had never appeared. If not for the fact that the surroundings of Sacred Ancestor Mountain had become a land of death, and if not for the giant squid in front of them, everyone would have thought that the scene just now was an illusion. Everyone's eyes fell on the giant squid. They were curious and solemn. The sect masters of the 6 divine sects were even more so. It was also their first time seeing the full appearance of the strange creature. Boom! However, at that moment, something extremely strange happened. After the strange black fog completely retreated, the giant black cuttlefish beast seemed to have lost all its strength. It instantly shriveled, and then suddenly collapsed, turning into a black fog. Then, under the illumination of the divine light, it completely disappeared. Chapter 3091. The faces of Ling Xiao and the 6 hierarchs of the divine sects instantly turned ugly. The creatures in the strange black fog were so strange. It was as if they could not survive after leaving the strange black fog. This made Ling Xiao's idea of capturing the creatures to find out the source of the strange black fog fall through. This strange black fog should be related to the mastermind who left behind the bloodline shackles on the god race. I have a feeling that the strange black fog will appear again. At that time, I will definitely charge into the strange black fog and investigate. Gu Tongtian's eyes flashed as he spoke slowly. The giant squid turned into ashes as if it had never appeared, but Ling Xiao's expression was incomparably solemn. How did the 12 ancestral gods of the divine clan die? Would such a powerful divine clan really fall because of the betrayal of the immortals? How powerful was the mastermind behind the strange black fog? The truth behind these layers of fog might be shocking and frightening. Ling Xiao suppressed his thoughts and looked at the cauldron of creation. No matter what, the bloodline shackles of the 1 billion divine clan members were all broken. They had been reborn and no longer had any shackles. It would not be long before they could soar into the sky. Buzz. The cauldron of creation shone brightly. 1 billion divine clan members flew out of the cauldron of creation and landed around ancestral God Mountain. Although the cultivation of the 1 billion divine clan members did not seem to have changed, their essence, qi, and spirit had improved qualitatively. It was as if they had been reborn. Their qi and blood rose as vast as the sea. Above their heads, a powerful force of fortune gathered and merged into the divine clan mark. The divine clan mark surrendered in the sea of clouds. Fortune rose and the void shook as if it could shatter everything. Ling Xiao was extremely satisfied when he sensed that the fortune of the god's race was getting stronger and stronger. He could feel that the fortune of the divine clan could not only control the divine clan mark and the cauldron of creation, but also improve the strength of Ling Xiao's physical body. Greetings, Divine Master. Greetings, Divine Master. 1 billion divine clan members bowed down. Their eyes were filled with fanatical worship, and their voices were like rolling thunder, shaking this part of the sky. 1 billion Protoss were completely loyal. At that moment, even the sect leaders of the 5 divine sects could not help but change their expressions. Gu Tongtian was also silent. No one dared to underestimate Ling Xiao. Even though Ling Xiao was only at the 2nd heaven of the imperial monarch realm, the formidable combat strength he'd displayed earlier had already convinced countless people. Moreover, Ling Xiao had the deity clan seal and the cauldron of creation, 2 supreme emperor weapons. If he used the fate of the deity clan to activate the cauldron of creation, it would be enough to kill a peerless celestial lord. Even Gu Tongtian would not dare to say that he could withstand the power of the cauldron of creation. Please rise, everyone. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and lifted the air. Suddenly, a vast power of providence rose and lifted up the 1 billion gods. New 81 Chinese network update fastest computer, / everyone, I need to go into seclusion for a period of time. I'll leave the god race to you. Ling Xiao turned to Gu Tongtian and the other sect masters of the 6 divine sects and smiled. Alright. The sect masters of the 6 divine sects nodded. Gu Tongtian was silent for a moment and then said to Ling Xiao, Lei Ling, I have something to tell you. What a coincidence, me too. Ling Xiao also said with a smile. The other 5 sect masters left tactfully. Even though the 6 divine sects existed in name, they still existed in name before Ling Xiao subdued the 6 sect masters. They needed to organize the disciples of the various divine sects to explore this world, mine resources, and build cities. Of course, the most important thing was to increase their cultivation. The Hall of Gods was so vast that it wasn't any smaller than a great thousand world. This was the legacy left behind by the 12 ancestral gods. Right now, it was the best shelter for the 1 billion gods, as well as a place where they could focus on their cultivation. Only Ling Xiao and Gu Tongtian were left at the peak of the ancestral god mountain. Lei Ling, what I want to tell you is that before you entered the immortal demon cave, I had thought of killing you and taking your bloodline, providence, and divine bone after you left the immortal demon cave. Gu Tongtian was extremely frank as soon as he spoke. However, the murderous intent in his words made Ling Xiao frown slightly. So, Sect Master, have you changed your mind? Ling Xiao asked curiously. Previously, Madame Fu Yao had warned him that Gu Tongtian would do him harm. Ling Xiao had also felt murderous intent from Gu Tongtian, so he had always been very wary of him. However, he did not expect Gu Tongtian to admit it so frankly. That's right. In the past, I thought that you could not bear the burden of the gods. Only I, Gu Tongtian, could revive the gods. I, Gu Tongtian, will be the true ancestral god of the gods after Emperor Tongtian. I will also be the only candidate to lead the gods to prosperity and hope. Gu Tongtian said faintly, but his voice contained an extremely strong fluctuation of confidence. This was a person who was proud to the bone. What about now? Ling Xiao asked. Although he was wary of Gu Tongtian, he could understand his thoughts. After all, Gu Tongtian was extremely talented and powerful. Ling Xiao had seen his unparalleled combat strength. How could such a person be willing to submit to a junior like him? Such a person must be extremely proud. Now, I still don't think you can bear this heavy responsibility. However, I am willing to believe that you have such a possibility, so I am also willing to take a gamble. Next, I will leave the gods and embark on the journey of the Eternal Emperor Road. If I come back one day, the master of the gods will be me. Gu Tongtian's gaze fell on Ling Xiao. It was sharp and domineering with a hint of scrutiny. Leave the gods and embark on the Eternal Emperor Road? Isn't the Eternal Emperor Road only for young geniuses? Before Ling Xiao could finish his words, he suddenly felt a little embarrassed. The sect master in front of him did not seem to be very old. Young geniuses? It seems that you still know nothing about the Eternal Emperor Road. This is the Eternal Emperor Road, but it is also the road of transcendence. Throughout the heavens and realms, since ancient times, countless geniuses and powerful people have embarked on the journey of the Eternal Emperor Road as long as they have the strength to fight. I have the heart to prove my Tao, so why can't I embark on the Eternal Emperor Road? Gu Tongtian laughed proudly, his voice filled with sharpness. What about the other 5 sect masters? Ling Xiao was a little speechless. This Gu Tongtian was really domineering. He did not show any mercy in his words. However, it was the god's fortune to have such a peerless character. Them? They are old. Not old in age, but in heart. They already have fear in their hearts. They have lost their sharpness and the will to die. How can they prove their Tao? They will not go to the Eternal Emperor Road. It is their duty to stay here and protect the gods. Gu Tongtian said faintly, not hiding the sarcasm in his eyes. Chapter 3092. Ling Xiao nodded. He had heard about the bloodshed and cruelty of the Eternal Emperor Road from the evil spirit. This was a path of white bones, a path of slaughter and conquest. Everyone who stepped onto the Eternal Emperor's Road would face the danger of certain death. But for the sake of proving one's Tao, for the sake of transcendence, for the sake of creation, they would not hesitate. Gu Tongtian made Ling Xiao feel a sense of respect for him. Therefore, I will recognize you as the Divine Master for now. But if I return from proving one's Tao and you haven't, the Divine Master position will belong to me. End of the phone. // Gu Tongtian said faintly. Don't worry. Since I have taken the position of the Divine Master, I will keep it. You have the heart to set foot on the Eternal Emperor Road and fight for the heavens. How can I, Ling Xiao, not? Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His eyes shone brightly without the slightest hint of fear. Ling Xiao? Is that your real name? Gu Tongtian looked deeply at Ling Xiao and asked. That's right. Your honesty makes me look like a villain. I come from the human race of the divine realm. My name is Ling Xiao. I infiltrated the immortal realm to find out the truth of the immortal realm. But I didn't expect to become the master of the divine realm. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Human race of the divine realm? No wonder there are two supreme experts guarding you outside the immortal realm. But you are not human. You have the blood of the human race and the aura of the demon race. You even have the power of the desolate wilderness, but you also have the divine bones of the divine realm. You have great fortune and are the chosen one. You don't belong to any race, but you can become the master of any race. Perhaps the divine realm is lucky to have you. Gu Tongtian looked at Ling Xiao seriously. There was a strange look in his eyes. It's not easy to hear a compliment from the sect leader. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. It's not a compliment, it's the truth. Gu Tongtian said seriously. The path of Eternal Emperor will only open in a few years or decades. Is the hierarch going to leave now? Ling Xiao asked. That's right. I'm going to the myriad worlds to take a good look. When the Eternal Emperor Road opens, we will meet there. Perhaps we will have a battle. Gu Tongtian said indifferently. Then I'm truly honored. Ling Xiao smiled. Ling Xiao, although you're not Lei Ling, I still want to tell you that there's nothing between me and Fu Yao. If you like her, you can take her away. Gu Tongtian suddenly blurted out. Ahem. Sect Master, there's nothing going on between Madam and me. Ling Xiao coughed violently. His face was flushed red, and his expression was unnatural. In the end, he could only smile bitterly. As expected, Gu Tongtian knew everything. Gu Tongtian saying that he wanted to kill him probably had something to do with the matter between Lei Ling and Fu Yao. After knowing Ling Xiao's true identity, this fellow must have felt extremely depressed as well. Ling Xiao guessed maliciously. That's none of my business. I'm leaving. Ling Xiao, I'll leave the god race to you. Gu Tongtian stared at Ling Xiao and smiled faintly. It was only when Ling Xiao was about to fly into a rage that he turned and left. He stepped into the void and his figure slowly disappeared into the void. He was incomparably carefree and did not have the slightest bit of reluctance. Gu Tongtian left. As for the remaining 5 sect masters, as Gu Tongtian had said, they did not choose to step onto the Eternal Emperor Road. Instead, they chose to become the guardians of the god race and guard it. Within the Hall of the Gods, the 1 billion god race members were incomparably safe. They did not have to worry about the immortals killing their way in and could concentrate on cultivating. Ling Xiao also prepared to go into seclusion. This time, he had reaped great rewards in the immortal world. Not only had his cultivation broken through to the second heaven of the immortal emperor realm and formed the primordial chaos origin body, he had also obtained many precious divine techniques, immortal techniques, and immortal emperor sutras. XN81 Chinese network updates fastest computer. // There were already 16 origin Dao fruits in Ling Xiao's consciousness. Although Ning Wuji had died at his hands, Ling Xiao had discovered that Ning Wuji's Sword Dao fruit did not have as much potential as the Sword Heart Saint's Sword Dao fruit. Thus, Ling Xiao had merged Ning Wuji's Sword Dao fruit into his own. The 16 origin Dao fruits were like 16 stars that circled around Ling Xiao's primordial spirit, emitting dazzling and crystalline light. Ling Xiao's greatest reward in the Immortal Demon Grotto was the Imperial Sutras of the 9 major immortal sections. The saints and saintesses he had killed were all geniuses that the 9 major immortal sects had dedicated their efforts to nurture. The Taiyuan Saint and Sword Heart Saint were even said to have the potential to conquer the Eternal Emperor Road. Thus, they had all cultivated the complete Immortal Emperor Sutra. Although their primordial spirits had powerful restrictions that made it difficult for Ling Xiao to obtain the complete Immortal Emperor Sutra, it was enough. What Ling Xiao needed was not to cultivate the immortal techniques within, but to comprehend the Immortal Emperor Dao within and assimilate it into his own body, nourishing the 16 Dao fruits at the same time. Ling Xiao had already found his path to the Immortal Emperor realm. That was to continuously comprehend the myriad Daos of the universe and form origin Dao fruits, or steal the origin Dao fruits of other geniuses. In the end, when Ling Xiao had gathered 3,000 origin Dao fruits in his consciousness, that would be his ultimate path to becoming an immortal emperor. The Eternal Emperor Road is fortune, opportunity, and transcendence. It is also my greatest opportunity. Just as evil spirit Terwo said, My enemies are far stronger than I imagined. I must forge a path that no one has ever walked before and no one will follow in my footsteps. 3,000 great Daos? This is only the beginning. Ling Xiao thought to himself, his eyes flashing with resplendent light. He went into seclusion at the peak of Sacred Ancestor Mountain. Under Sacred Ancestor Mountain, 120 divine generals led by Teng Shan, Zhan Chen, and Wu Hen guarded the mountain, cultivating and guarding Ling Xiao at the same time. Ling Xiao needed to laugh at his gains in the world of immortals. His primordial immortal body, also known as the primordial origin body, had yet to reach its peak. The path to becoming an immortal emperor was extremely long. It required opportunities and good fortune, as well as the ability to endure loneliness, to reach the peak. The divine clan seal and cauldron of creation floated at the peak of Sacred Ancestor Mountain. More and more divine clan providence rose like a sea of clouds, enveloping Ling Xiao. The divine clan providence could help Ling Xiao refine his body. When Ling Xiao's body was fully refined, he would break through to the third level of the immortal emperor realm. The 1 billion divine clan members also began to cultivate in seclusion in the Hall of the Gods. Occasionally, some would raise their heads and look at the blurry figure at the peak of Sacred Ancestor Mountain, their eyes filled with fanatical worship. From time to time, there would be breakthroughs and tribulations, using the vast lightning tribulation to break through to a higher level. The entire god race was transforming. No one knew how powerful the god race would be when they reappeared. The upheaval in the multiverse grew more and more intense. The powerful realm walls and the suppression of laws began to weaken gradually. From time to time, there would be powerhouses crossing over. The conflict between the races intensified. Bloody battles broke out everywhere. Baleful aura and murderous intent converged into an invisible and untouchable force. This force was called tribulation. Even those with lower cultivation bases could feel the fear of an impending calamity. P.S. This volume ends. The next volume begins the journey of the Eternal Emperor Road. Darkness Ling Xiao, Faith Ling Xiao, Zhao Ritian, Old Goat, and the others will all appear. Please look forward to it. Today is Mu Yu's birthday. I'll be having dinner with friends tonight, so I'll update ahead of time. There should be time for an explosion next week. Chapter 3093. Demon World. Ruins of the Chaos Demon Sect. The Primordial Demon Sect and the Blood Prison Demon Sect had fought several bloody battles. In the end, both sides sent out an Emperor Realm Patriarch each. Both sides came to an agreement to wait outside the Chaos Heavenly Palace and wait for Dark Soaring Sky to come out. They would kill him and split the inheritance and treasures in the Chaos Heavenly Palace equally. However, 10 years had passed since then. The Chaos Heavenly Palace remained silent. It was filled with chaos mist and chaotic space and illusions. No one dared to enter the Chaos Heavenly Palace. The two Emperor Realm Patriarchs of the Primordial Demon Sect and the Blood Prison Demon Sect were getting impatient. The Great Tribulation of the Epoch was coming, and the Eternal Emperor Road was about to open. Over the years, the turmoil had intensified. Even in the demon world, there were all kinds of strange phenomena. The forbidden areas of the demon world and some ancient ruins seemed to be showing signs of the birth of ancient experts. Although the ruins of the Chaos Demon Tribe were well hidden and sealed by the Primordial Demon Sect and the Blood Prison Demon Sect, it could not be hidden for long. If others knew that the inheritance of the Chaos Demon Tribe had appeared, all the powerful demon tribes and demon sects would swarm over. Not to mention the Immortal Demon Sect that both the Primordial Demon Sect and the Blood Prison Demon Sect were wary of. Although the 10 sects of the demon world did not have a ranking, the Immortal Demon Sect should be the leader of the 10 sects in terms of strength. The Immortal Demon Emperor was said to have lived for several eras. Before the Primordial Demon Emperor and the Blood Prison Demon Emperor had attained their Tao, the Immortal Demon Emperor was already the Immortal Demon Emperor. It was said that the death of the Heavenly Emperor had something to do with the Immortal Demon Emperor. If the Immortal Demon Sect knew that the inheritance of the Chaos Demon Tribe was here, they would not let it go easily. Demon Emperor Qingsong, we can't just sit here and wait. I think we should find a way to enter the Chaos Heavenly Palace. A beautiful woman in a red dress with a fiery figure and jade-like skin said with a faint smile. She had a face that was like a calamity. Her eyes were filled with charm. She was Demon Monarch Yu Hua, the monarch ancestor of the undying demon sect. Demon King Qing Tsong, who was standing opposite her, was a burly man in a black robe. His muscles were bulging, and his physique was terrifying. He had long blue hair, and his expression was cold. He looked extremely wild. Demon Lord Qing Tsong took a deep look at Demon Lord Yu Hua. His eyes were blazing, but they were soon replaced by fear. Although this Demon Lord Yu Hua was an outstanding beauty, she was promiscuous and had countless gigolos. Moreover, she was proficient in the art of refining cauldrons. Those who were targeted by her all ended up in an extremely miserable state. Demon Lord Yu Hua, I'm afraid only a great emperor can break the space-time distortion array outside the Chaos Heavenly Palace. If you and I want to go in, we're just courting death. Demon Sovereign Qing Tsong sneered. You're right. This space-time disorder formation is too terrifying. Even the bloody hell heavenly sun can't break it. However, if we can invite a great emperor incarnation, we might be able to enter the Chaos Heavenly Palace. Demon Lord Yu Hua said with a smile. Invite a great emperor's incarnation? That's a good idea. Why don't Demon Lord Yu Hua invite the Blood Hell Demon Emperor's incarnation? If you can enter the Chaos Heavenly Palace, you can have the first pick of the inheritance and treasures inside. Demon Lord Qing Tsong said with a sneer. Invite a great emperor's incarnation? One should know that a great emperor's incarnation had the strength of a great emperor's full-strength attack. Even a great emperor would be burdened by the incarnation. This Demon Lord Yu Hua was really daring. Lord Qing Tsong, you know that we don't know where His Majesty the Blood Hell Demon Emperor is. However, I heard that there's a primitive demon emperor's incarnation in the primitive demon sect. Demon Lord Yu Hua said with a sweet smile. Her eyes were filled with endless charm. She even twisted her body, showing off her perfect curves to Demon Lord Qing Tsong without hesitation. How did you know? Demon Lord Qing Tsong's face suddenly changed. He only realized it when he saw Demon Lord Yu Hua's half-smile. You tricked me? Demon Lord Qing Tsong was a little angry. Demon Lord Qing Tsong, I didn't expect the primitive demon emperor to leave behind an incarnation. What a surprise! Demon Lord Yu Hua said with a smile. Yu Hua, do you want to die? Demon Lord Qing Tsong's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Why are you so fierce? I'm so scared. At most, I'll repay you with my body. Demon Lord Yu Hua revealed a pitiful expression. As she spoke, she walked towards Demon Lord Qing Tsong, wanting to lean her delicate body against Demon Lord Qing Tsong. Demon Lord Qing Tsong immediately retreated as if he had seen a poisonous snake. His eyes were filled with vigilance. Qing Tsong, what are you afraid of? I'm not going to eat you. Look at your cowardly face. I wouldn't want you even if you offered yourself to me. I still prefer young men. I heard that Ling Xiao is a handsome young man. I wonder what kind of person he is. I'm really looking forward to it. Demon Lord Yu Hua sneered. Her eyes were filled with mockery. Demon Lord Qing Tsong was shocked and angered by Demon Lord Yu Hua's teasing. However, he couldn't do anything. Rumble. At this moment, the void in the distance shattered. A blazing light rose and a figure with a terrifying aura flew across the sky. Everyone's face couldn't help but change. The figure was extremely domineering. He appeared directly above the primordial demon sect and the blood prison demon sect. He exuded a mighty aura. The light was blazing. Demonic chi surged and revealed the true appearance of the figure. Emperor's son? Demon Lord Qing Tsong's face changed slightly. Instantly, his eyes were filled with surprise and joy. The person who came was Prince Primordial. Prince Primordial looked like a young man of 18 or 19 years old. He was dressed in black armor. He was tall and had an imposing appearance. His eyes were cold and his face was cold. His body exuded a cold aura. Even heavenly venerables couldn't help but tremble when they looked at him. They couldn't help but lower their heads. A powerful emperor's aura exuded from his body. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Prince Primordial's cultivation had reached the emperor realm. Qing Tsang, that Ling Xiao hasn't come out yet? Prince Primordial's gaze fell on Demon Lord Qing Tsang as he said indifferently. As for Demon Lord Yu Hua and the others, they were ignored by him. When Demon Lord Yu Hua saw Prince Primordial, the flirtatious look in her eyes faded slightly. This was a big shot. He wasn't someone she could afford to offend. Not yet. Demon Lord Qing Tsang replied. There's no need to wait. I'm here to break the space-time disorder array outside the Chaos Heavenly Palace. The inheritance of the Chaos Demon tribe belongs to me. Prince Primordial said indifferently. However, there was an unquestionable dominance in his voice. Chapter 3094. Your Highness, aren't you being a little too overbearing? Didn't we agree that the inheritance and treasures in the Chaos Heavenly Palace will be split equally between us? Demon Lord Yuehua's expression changed slightly. She was both shocked and furious. She had not expected Prince Yuanshi to be so overbearing as to ignore the Blood Prison demonic sect. You have a problem with that? Prince Yuanshi glanced at her indifferently. My Blood Prison demonic sect wants half of the inheritance and treasures in the Chaos Heavenly Palace. Although Demon Lord Yuehua could sense a dangerous aura coming from Prince Yuanshi, she still repeated herself. However, before she could finish her sentence, a black fist print came crashing down on her. Boom! That fist was fierce and overbearing. It was surrounded by a blazing demonic light. It was like a 10,000-foot tall mountain, and its power was condensed to the extreme. Stop! Demon Lord Yuehua was both shocked and furious. She screamed as she tried to defend herself. She quickly formed seals with her hands. Blood light gathered in her palms and spread out. It was like a sea of blood. The smell of blood filled the air and could corrode everything. Demon Lord Yuehua's figure instantly hid in the sea of blood. Blood swords flew out from the sea of blood and shot towards Prince Yuanshi. Boom! That fist was vast and contained the true demonic intent. It was as if it could shatter the heavens and earth, turning it into a scene from the beginning of the chaos. The huge sea of blood was blasted apart by that fist. The blood swords were also destroyed instantly. Demon Lord Yuehua spat out a mouthful of blood. She was sent flying and her eyes were filled with horror. Your cultivation? Third heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm? Demon Lord Yuehua's voice was trembling. Prince Yuanshi's cultivation was so terrifying. It was no wonder she could not even take a single punch. Now, do you have any other problems? Prince Yuanshi retracted his fist and said indifferently. Demon Lord Yuehua did not say anything. Her eyes were filled with hatred. She waved her hand and led the Blood Prison demonic sect away. Your Highness, I'm afraid the Blood Prison demonic sect will not let this go. Demon Lord Qingsong's eyes were filled with worry. Blood Prison demon sect? The ruins of the primal chaos divine race belonged to the primitive demon sect. What did it have to do with them? You don't have to worry about it. I have my own plans. Original Prince said indifferently. Demon Sovereign Qing Tsang replied with a bow. Prince Primitive's gaze landed on the Chaos Heavenly Palace in the distance. The Primal Chaos Heavenly Palace floated in the Primal Chaos. It was filled with Primal Chaos mist and looked extremely mysterious. It was as if the passage of time had not left any traces on the Chaos Heavenly Palace. The Chaos Heavenly Palace looked mysterious, majestic, and vast, exuding an aura of eternity. However, around the chaotic Heavenly Palace, there were chaotic space-time and all kinds of strange illusions. The void was distorted like water waves. It was an array formation with chaotic space-time, and at the same time, it contained chaotic power of laws. Even god monarchs wouldn't dare to enter it, fearing that they would be torn apart by the chaotic energy. Qing Tsang, I'll break the formation outside the Primal Chaos Heavenly Palace. You lead everyone and be careful of the Blood Prison demonic sect. Prince Primordial said slowly. Yes. Demon Sovereign Qing Tsang nodded. Prince Primordial instantly shot up into the sky, his body glowing with dazzling light. His eyes instantly became as sharp as a blade. His palm glowed brightly, and a black jade talisman appeared. The jade talisman looked crystal clear, with ancient runes revolving around it. A mysterious figure vaguely appeared. "Father, please break the formation," Prince Primordial said softly. He instantly cut open his palm, and fresh blood dripped onto the black jade talisman. Boom! The black jade talisman suddenly glowed brightly, and a vast and terrifying Emperor's aura spread out. A mysterious figure condensed within the black jade talisman. Although it looked blurry, it exuded an invincible aura that could sweep across the universe. "This is the incarnation of His Majesty Primordial Demon Emperor?" Demon Sovereign Qing Tsang's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. "No, this is not an incarnation, but a mark that contains the power of His Majesty Primordial Demon Emperor." Demon Sovereign Qing Tsang took a closer look and realized that there was only a mark in the black jade talisman. However, a mark of Primordial Demon Emperor was enough to unleash the power of a great emperor. It should be able to break the formation in front of him, right? Rumble. The figure carried the sky, stood on the ground, and exuded an invincible aura. Facing the chaotic heavenly palace, he struck out with his palm. The palm print covered the sky, and it was vast, as if it could destroy everything. It enveloped the entire chaotic heavenly palace. Kacha! Runes shattered one by one, and the surrounding void started to be destroyed. The chaotic heavenly palace was surrounded by chaotic power of law, and it was accompanied by a chaotic space-time illusion that could tear everything apart. However, at this moment, as if it had been billions of years, the power of the space-time illusion had weakened significantly. A series of crisp sounds rang out as the runes were quickly annihilated. In the end, the runes completely shattered. The palm print did not decrease in power, and it landed on the chaotic heavenly palace. Ding! The chaotic heavenly palace shook slightly, and a crisp sound was heard. It was ancient and mysterious, and it shone with dazzling light. It really broke. Demon Sovereign Qing Tsang's eyes were filled with surprise. Demon Sovereign Yu Hua, who was far away, was also in disbelief. She had not expected Prince Primordial to come personally and pay such a price. The chaotic heavenly palace was the core inheritance of the chaotic demon tribe. At the thought of this, even Demon Sovereign Yu Hua's breathing quickened. Prince Primordial's eyes were filled with dazzling light, and he instantly soared into the sky, flying towards the chaotic heavenly palace. Rumble! But at this time, Chaos Divine Palace began to violently tremble. An incomparably terrifying chaos demonic energy gushed out, instantly covering the skies in all directions. It was as if an ancient demon sovereign had awakened from a deep slumber, and it was exuding an insufferably powerful aura. What? The expression in Prince Primitive's eyes changed. He saw a figure standing up in the chaotic heavenly palace amidst the endless chaotic demon chi, and he was exuding a terrifying aura. Boom! The figure faced Prince Primordial and threw out a punch. The fierce fist print was surrounded by boundless light and darkness, and it formed a strange combination. In an instant, it exploded with destructive power. "Ling Xiao, get out here!" Original Prince bellowed. His eyes instantly turned sharp as he struck out with his palm in the air. He did not need to guess to know that the figure was Dark Saint Ling Xiao. Zhubi Chinese Network. Chapter 3095. Original Prince's eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. He already regarded the inheritance of the Chaos Demons as his exclusive property. Ling Xiao had actually dared to enter Chaos Divine Palace, and there was a high chance that he had obtained the inheritance of the Chaos Demons. How could he not be enraged by this? Rumble! The blazing light around Original Prince rose up and struck out in the air. In an instant, it covered the sky and the sun. It contained an unparalleled amount of original demonic power, enveloping the dark clouds in front of him. His attack was powerful and terrifying. It stirred up strong winds that swept across the void and turned the surrounding barren mountains into dust. In an instant, Prince Primordial clashed with darkness soaring cloud. The void instantly shattered and endless void turbulence surged. A wave of chaotic light shot into the sky. Original Prince's powerful attack was instantly annihilated. A fist mark surrounded by endless chaotic light rose up like the sun and slammed into Original Prince's body. Original Prince's entire body trembled. He let out a muffled groan and was instantly sent flying. "Ha! Original Prince, I didn't expect you to be so tough. You didn't die in the Chaos Ancient Land and actually survived?" A domineering, arrogant, majestic and wild voice exploded in the void. Chaotic light surged in the sky. Darkling Shao pushed through 3,000 worlds. His aura was extremely terrifying. He walked out from the Chaos Heavenly Palace. He was dressed in a black robe and had a handsome figure. Chaotic demon light rose around him, and his black hair danced wildly. His face was extremely cold and there was a domineering aura in his eyes that looked down on the world. Behind him, there seemed to be endless darkness and endless light appearing at the same time. In the end, they both returned to chaos. He walked over as if he was wrapped in a vast force of heaven and earth. His aura was majestic and domineering. It contained an extremely strong aggressiveness that made it hard for people to breathe. Whether it was the people from Original Demon Sect or Blood Prison Demon Sect, their expressions changed drastically. Darkling Shao in front of them gave them an extremely dangerous feeling. When Darkling Shao glanced at them, they felt chills all over their bodies and their hearts palpitated. Second Heaven Immortal Emperor Realm? Original Prince stared at Darkness Ling Shao, his eyes filled with shock. Chaos light rose around Darkness soaring Skycloud's body. Darkness and light appeared. This was clearly a powerful phenomenon that could only occur when one condensed their source body. However, when Darkness Ling Shao entered the chaotic heavenly palace 10 years ago, he had only just broken through to the Saint King realm, so how could he have undergone such a great transformation in just 10 years? In fact, that incomparably ferocious and unstoppable punch had actually forced Original Prince to retreat, causing his expression to instantly turn extremely ugly. The inheritance of the Chaos Demons. Prince Primitive knew that Darkness Ling Shao must have obtained the inheritance of the Chaos Demon race, which was why he had such a shocking change. "You're not bad either. Third Heaven Imperial Lord? You heirs of great emperors are truly blessed by the heavens. However, in my opinion, you're still trash." Darkness Ling Shao sneered. His eyes were filled with arrogance. Prince Original had appeared at the Chosen One before. However, he had been killed by Ling Shao in the Primal Chaos Ancient Land. Now, it seemed that it was not Prince Original's true body. The reason why those great emperors went to the Chosen One was none other than to obtain the title of Chosen One. Naturally, they would not put themselves in danger. Prince Original had a noble and powerful bloodline in his body. His blood was boiling, and he had an innate transcendent aura. He looked ancient and mysterious. This was the temperament that the heirs of great emperors should have. However, the awkward thing was that even Prince Original was forced back by Darkness Ling Xiao's punch. "Ling Xiao, you're courting death," Prince Original said coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Although his true body was not killed, the defeat in the Primal Chaos Ancient Land still made him feel extremely humiliated. "You!" Darkness Ling Shao laughed arrogantly and stepped out of the chaotic heavenly palace. Behind him, there were two peerless beauties. One was wearing a black dress, the other was wearing a white dress. They were extremely talented, had a graceful figure, and an extraordinary aura. They were Yuan Ling Holy Lady and Light Holy Lady. At this moment, the two women were looking at Darkness Ling Shao with eyes full of admiration and infatuation. Seeing this scene, Prince Original's eyes were filled with killing intent. Yuan Ling Holy Lady had long been regarded as his woman. Yuan Ling Holy Lady had a peerless furnace physique. Prince Original had been waiting for her cultivation to break through to the Imperial Emperor realm. Then, with the help of dual cultivation, he could further improve his cultivation. But now, Yuan Ling Holy Lady had clearly lost her virginity. Prince Original felt that the top of his head was green. Even the eyes of the people around him seemed to have a strange color. This made him so angry that he was about to explode. "Bitch, how dare you betray me?" Prince Original pointed at Yuan Ling Holy Lady and said coldly, "Your Highness, please respect yourself. I have nothing to do with you. How can I betray you? I only have one husband, and that is him." Yuan Ling Saintess looked at Original Prince coldly, her voice cold. "Good girl, as expected of my good wife." Darkness Ling Xiao suddenly pulled Yuan Ling Saintess into his arms, lowered his head and kissed her deeply. Her red lips, her ears, her snow-white neck, kissed until Yuan Ling Saintess' face turned red. She was extremely shy before he stopped and laughed. Boom! Seeing this scene, Prince Original instantly exploded. His whole body trembled, his face was distorted, and his eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. He hated Darkness Ling Xiao to the extreme. Bastard couple! He only had one thought now, and that was to tear the bastard couple in front of him into pieces. "Darkness Ling Xiao, give me your life!" Prince Original roared. Rumble! His blood rose, demonic light overflowed, and there was a black flame that spread out, as if it could burn everything. He slammed his palm down from the sky. Black demonic flames surged, instantly turning into a sea, enveloping Darkness Ling Xiao's entire being. Originally, with Prince Original's cultivation and state of mind, it was impossible for him to be so easily angered. But Darkness Ling Xiao and Yuan Ling Holy Lady made him completely furious. He could even predict that if today's matter were to spread out, or if Darkness Ling Xiao and Yuan Ling Holy Lady appeared in the Devil Realm, he would become the laughingstock of the entire Devil Realm. This was the greatest shame of a man. So he did not care and attacked. And the first attack was a Supreme Emperor technique. Demonic Flame Heaven Burning Palm. Good. Darkness Ling Xiao laughed. His eyes were incomparably sharp, without the slightest fear. Facing the sky full of demonic flames, he took a step and rushed directly into the sea of fire. Chapter 3096. Rumble. The sea of fire rose. The black demonic flame was formed by the origin energy and could burn everything. Even the origin energy of an Imperial Emperor expert could not withstand it. However, Darkness Ling Xiao was not afraid. He rushed into the sea of demonic flame and the chaotic light around him shone brightly. The black demonic flame was extinguished. He punched out in the air and the fist print moved in all directions. It collided with Original Prince and the palm print formed by the demonic flame was instantly destroyed. Boom! Darkness Ling Xiao smirked coldly. Like a ghost, he teleported and appeared in front of Original Prince. He then slapped Original Prince's face. Domineering. Arrogant. Arrogant. Original Prince was so angry that his eyes were spitting fire. His hair stood on end. If he was really slapped by Darkness Ling Xiao, it would be a great humiliation. The black demonic chi around him surged and turned into black tentacles in an instant. They covered the sky and wrapped around dark soaring cloud. Those black tentacles emitted a cold metallic light. They were like poisonous snakes and were extremely agile. They were as fast as lightning and wrapped around Darkness Ling Xiao in an instant. Darkness Ling Xiao hit the black tentacles and there was a sound of metal clashing. Sparks flew in all directions. The black tentacles were formed from the primordial origin that Prince Primitive cultivated. They were sharp and tough. After entangling Darkness Ling Xiao, they instantly became extremely sharp and pierced towards Darkness Ling Xiao's vital points. Die! Original Prince flew in the air and his palm released an extremely sharp saber intent. In an instant, it turned into a 10,000 feet long saber aura and slashed towards Darkness Ling Xiao. Boom! The 10,000 feet long saber aura was wrapped in a monstrous demonic chi. It was a great destructive power that seemed to split the world in half. The incomparably sharp saber radiance was vast and mighty, instantly covering Darkness soaring cloud. Boom! However, all of a sudden, the 10,000-meter-long saber aura seemed to have come to a standstill as it hovered above dark soaring sky's head. Then, a thunderous roar exploded, causing the sky to shake violently. Endless chaotic light gushed out, and darkness Ling Xiao's body emitted an incomparably grand vision. The black tentacles that wrapped around him were instantly shattered and annihilated, turning into ashes. Darkness Ling Xiao's gaze was incomparably sharp. He grabbed at the air with one hand and grabbed the 30,000-meter-long astral saber, preventing it from descending at all. An unparalleled divine power erupted, and the dark soaring heavens clawed the 10,000-meter-long saber astral into pieces. Slash! Original Prince's eyes were cold. After the blade aura exploded, the black demonic light behind him surged, and an unparalleled blade intent exploded. In an instant, the demonic light turned into tens of thousands of blade auras, surging like a huge wave, continuing to slash at Darkness Ling Xiao. Kill! Darkness Ling Xiao sneered and went straight up. He did not dodge the blade radiance in the sky. Instead, he sent a palm strike towards Original Prince. Rumble! The blade radiance fell and slashed at Darkness Ling Xiao's body. Sparks flew and light bloomed. It was as if they had slashed at an indestructible golden body. They could not cause any damage to Darkness Ling Xiao at all. Darkness Ling Xiao's body emitted chaotic light, and his demonic aura was vast and boundless. He instantly arrived in front of Original Prince. Get lost! Original Prince was shocked and furious. He did not expect Darkness Ling Xiao's physical body to be so strong. Moreover, Darkness Ling Xiao's palm strike was aimed at his face. He was about to explode from anger. He threw out both his palms, and there were strange black runes flickering in his palms. They were constantly twisting like living beings, and they went towards Darkness Ling Xiao's palm strike. The strange black runes made Darkness Ling Xiao's heart palpitate slightly. The power of a great emperor? Darkness Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat, and he instantly turned his palm into a blade. A snow-white blade radiance was dazzling, and it was extremely fast, slashing at Original Prince's arms. At the same time, chaotic light spread around Darkness Ling Xiao, and in an instant he split into thousands of figures in the void. Every figure contained a powerful aura fluctuation, making it impossible for Original Prince to tell where his true body was. Clang! The light was incomparably blazing. The snow-white blade light slashed onto Original Prince's arm. With a clanging sound, it left behind a white mark. The black armor on Original Prince's body was also a supreme treasure, and it contained an unparalleled defensive power that could block Darkness Ling Xiao's attack. However, the terrifying power contained in the blade still numbed Original Prince's arms, and his body froze for a moment. However, it was this moment that gave Darkness Ling Xiao a chance. Slap! A crisp sound was heard, and Darkness Ling Xiao slapped Original Prince's face. This slap contained an unparalleled power, and it caused Original Prince's face to swell, and he was sent flying. Teeth mixed with blood flew out, and Original Prince could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. TSK? Original Prince, your skin is really thick. Look, it hurts my hand. Darkness Ling Xiao said with a smile. Everyone was stunned. Especially Demon Lord Qing Tsang and Demon Lord Yu Hua. The corners of their mouths twitched, and their eyes were filled with shock. This was a ruthless person. He was so persistent in wanting to slap Original Prince's face, but in the end he actually succeeded. But do you know the consequences of slapping Original Prince's face? This was the son of Original Demon Emperor. Slapping Original Prince's face was equivalent to slapping Original Demon Emperor's face. It was worse than killing him. This time, Darkness Ling Xiao had really offended Original Prince, and they had a death feud. The kind that would not rest until one of them was dead. Ling Xiao, I swear, if I don't kill you, I'll let my primordial spirit fall into the 9 underworlds, and never be reincarnated. Original Prince's eyes were filled with tears of blood, and he let out an extremely shrill voice, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. The bone-deep hatred and killing intent in his voice made everyone tremble, and their scalps tingle. Rumble. Original Prince's body cracked like a spider web, and black demonic light spewed out, and strange black runes appeared. Soon, the black runes covered Original Prince's body, making him look extremely strange. Original Prince's aura began to rise violently, and the blood in his body began to burn, causing him to emit an extremely dangerous aura. Darkness. Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed. He could feel that Original Prince had become extremely dangerous. The strange black runes contained the power to destroy everything, and when they connected together, it caused Original Prince to emit a vast emperor's aura. It felt as if a weak great emperor had awakened. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.